in for a big treat. In the chat, if it's your first time taking career visioning or any of the leverage series, chat in there. Or if you've done it multiple times, put it in there as well, because it's interesting always to see who's in the room. So, all right, well, welcome. With that, no further ado, let's introduce the man, the myth, the legend, the amazing Gene Rivers, who's been a friend to me, a mentor to me, and man, he always makes my day when we get a text and have communication, and I get to spend time with him. So I love hosting him. I love hosting you, Gene. You have an amazing story, and I know you'll share some of that with us, but this guy's legit. So I'm a trainer for this course, so I've taught this multiple times. I learn so much from this man every time I take it that I have so many notes. So you are in for a treat. If some of it's over your head, like I said, it's recorded. You can go back to it. Every one of us on this course is at a different place in our life. And it's like the same man never enters the same river twice, because the river has changed and so has the man. So even if you have taken this before, you're going to hear things that are different, that are differently important to you right now. And that's what I love about career visioning. So I just want to tell everybody, congratulations for being here. I'm super loving to host with Gene. And let's just make it a really great 2 days. Please make sure you're muted. And then go off camera if you need to leave or take a call or something. And we're just happy to play all in though. This is a focus class. You need to pay attention. This is one you can't like work on the side and kind of listen to. This is an all-in one. So welcome, Gene, take it away. You are muted, dear.
Thank you. I couldn't get out of that for a minute. So thank you for that wonderful opening. And here's a quick rundown on what's going to happen, just so you're prepared for the day. This course is normally a day and a half, and we're going to do it in a day. Now, the only way we can do that is, unfortunately, by taking out the actual breakout sessions for the exercises. And I'm actually okay with that, and so is the people that control the content, Leslie Vandergeist, because here's the deal. You need to practice. And if we do an exercise for 15 minutes, that does not mean you've nailed it. So when you take the course, the goal of doing a 15 or a 20-minute breakout is for you to get familiar with the exercise, but you by no means have mastered that exercise. The sessions that we're going to do are an hour long. The activities would be 15 or 20 minutes. So you haven't even done a whole session if we did do the 15-minute breakout. And you do need to make a commitment. And this is really important. You do need to make a commitment to practice and to do script and role play. And the people I know who hire a lot and who use these tools regularly still take the training multiple times a year. They'll take it 2, 3, or 4 times just to keep sharpening their saw and getting better and better at this. I've had the, I don't know what to call it, pleasure or unpleasure or whatever, but we have hired, my wife and I have hired over 200 people on our team. We've hired over 250 people in our organizations. We have 10 businesses now, and we've got people all across North Florida. I've got about 80 people across North Florida right now. And we're using it all the time. Hiring people is where I'm at. I mean, it's my wife and I and a group of powerful leaders leading a larger group of people underneath them. And this is my world. And I'm telling you what Melanie said is so true. You never entered the same river twice. You keep learning, you keep getting better. COVID has had an emotional impact on people. Emotional. And people are reacting differently to the same questions. They're entering a different river. So you keep learning and you keep dealing with it and you keep getting better. You're never going to get done because they're people you're dealing with. They're a hot mess half the time. So it's just people. And I want to talk about people for a minute. A couple of very important things to remember today. People are very prone to repeating their behavior. That one thing you need to get real clear in your brain, that people tend to repeat their behaviors. And that one thing propels every conversation I have with someone that we're thinking about hiring in terms of what I see they've done in the past and what others say about them from the past. And I can simply project that. I can put that on a trajectory and see kind of where they're headed in their future. And yes, people can change their trajectories, but it's difficult. It's difficult for people to do that. How many people have to hire a trainer and join a gym to get an effective workout? How many people have to use medicines or counseling or consulting in order to break addictions like alcohol or tobacco or drugs? It's very hard for people to change their behavior. So the whole point of this class is really about you getting clear about people's behavior in the past and what you should expect out of them behaviorally in the future. And you've got to get clear that this is what we're probing. We have a reality about people that is really, it's amazing when you think about it, about how motivation can change things. We have people that have the personality profiles, the KPAs, that indicate they're a very high match for roles. And we have over 80 roles identified now in KW, both market center roles and agent roles. And all those roles have been watched for years. I mean, over 2 decades, because we've been doing this in KW prior to just this career visioning. We did it with Recruit Select. We did it with the earlier version of career visioning before Recruit Select existed. And if you've been in KW and you had a profile pulled from the caliper or the disc or the AVA or the KPA, it's on file. And whatever you've accomplished, it was tracked. So we can match up behaviors and profiles with hundreds of thousands of people. And what we know to be true is simply this. If you look at the top 25% of performers, here's all the people that are team leaders, all the people that are mega agents, and you look at the top 25%, the majority of them are going to match the profile that our research with the KPA says they should look like, the majority. But depending on the role, it could be a low majority. It could be 50 or 60% match the profile. Other roles that are really tightly done, it'll be a 90% of them will match the profile. Like team leaders have a very specific profile to be in the top 25%. ISAs to be in the top 25% have a very specific profile. Others, like my role, OP, there's a lot of different behaviors of OPs who are very successful. They're much more unlike than other certain roles are. So here's the point. It's never 100% of the people that are the top performers are a match for the role. And the flip of that is also true. We have people in the bottom 25% in every role. These are the worst performers, and they are high matches behaviorally for the job. High matches. So we have top people who are not a match for the job behaviorally, and we have people that are high matches for the job behaviorally that are the worst performers. Now, what do you think about that? You're sitting to hire somebody and they're a high match for the job, and yet you know that doesn't mean squat. They might be one of the worst performers. How do you wrap your head around that? It's very simple. The things that matter the most when you meet people and you start talking to them and you look at their past behavior and talk to other people who've known them is your ability to figure out, are they intelligent? Are they motivated? And do they have integrity? And those 3 things are what the entire process is built to help you discover. Now, do we want people to be matches for their behavior profile of the job? Absolutely. And we're going to look at why that's true today. But I'll give you the short nickel answer for that. People who are high matches behaviorally for the job will have the least job stress in the job. People that are absolute opposite for the job, they can do it. They can do the job, but they'll have high job stress. The difference is somebody goes home and says, oh my God, what a day. I'm beat, I'm wore out, but I got a lot done today. Person with the right profile comes home and says, wow, what a day. You won't believe what I got done today. Let's go out for dinner. It was awesome today at the job. That's the difference. That's the difference. I'll never forget when I first heard this story, and it was years ago, about Judy Garland. Some of you might not know who Judy Garland was, but Judy Garland was a child actress. She had a classic stage mom who shoved her into showbiz, and she was phenomenal. Great actor, or a great actress, great singer. She was a fabulous nightclub singer. She's tremendous. But every single time from when she was a child, she got up on stage, she had horrendous stage fright. It scared her to death. And she dealt with it early on by starting to drink alcohol and then later take barbiturates. And she died of an overdose. All her life, she had to deal with the stress of the work she did through drugs and alcohol, and it killed her. So we do not want people to have job stress, because if they don't have job stress, that creates job longevity. But I've taught this for literally, I've taught the various hiring trainings we've had since I joined KW. And when we did public live events, do you remember when we did public live events? If you remember that, back in the old days, it seems like ancient history at this point. But back when we did live events, I'm telling you, God is my witness here. At every event where there's 100 or more people, at the first break, there'd be somebody standing up front wanting to talk to me, and they'd say, it says I'm not a high match for my job. I don't know what to do. I go, well, what's your job? I'm a mega agent. And well, how many homes you settled last year? 85. I said, give me your report. And I'd tear it up in front of them. I'd tear it up in front of them and say, this doesn't make who you are, darling. You are who you are. You are who you are. And you've adapted behaviorally to a role you're really good at. Do you like your job? Oh, I love it. I love being in real estate, but it says I can't be a mega agent. Shut up. Don't say that one more time, ever, ever. You are a mega agent. You've learned how to behaviorally adapt yourself to do what you need to do, and now you're comfortable with it. Just get over it. So I'm giving you this preamble so that you understand you got to learn how to read between the lines here. You've got to. People are complicated, and we do the best we can to point you in the right direction by using strategies like the KPA, understanding their profile. And it's highly accurate, but that still doesn't mean they're gonna nail it. And that's what we're gonna work on today. So if you're here for the first time, Melanie mentioned this, you will be drinking from a fire hydrant today. And Melanie's advice was the absolute right advice. Just take it in. Just take it in. Take lots of notes and take it in. And at the end of the day, get a cold libation and relax.
And lucky for them that I'm recording this, because that's not a normal, right? And so to be able to have, Gene, when we did it last time, I've had like over 30 people go back and watch the sections, each section again, because you really get to internalize this. So don't feel stressed out. That's a huge gift for you guys. So just remember that that's coming. Yep.
Don't worry about that. If you are making your first hire, or you're thinking about hiring somebody, you absolutely need to, at the end of the day, make sure you've taken good notes, and then review the whole manual at least 4 or 5 times. Just read it. Melanie's got the recordings for you, but if you made your own notes, you can simply read the manual and read your notes, and stuff will start to sink in and be clear to you. If you've taken this many, many times, you will have your own new ahas. I get new ahas when I train it. I'll hear something come out of my lips and go, dang, how come I never saw that before? And that's the truth about training. Training is the highest level of mastery and learning, and you're never done learning. So anyway, this is going to be fun. We'll have a break mid-morning. We'll have a lunch break, which will be a shorter break, a lunch break. I'm going to try to get you out of here a little bit early, but it's difficult with this course. We'll have a break in the afternoon, and then the end of the day will occur. Any questions you have, this group is too big for us to be open mic. So any questions you have, type them in the chat box. Just type them in there. You will find other people who've taken it a lot, might type in an answer for you, and you've got your answer. Melanie or someone is going to be monitoring the chat box. And when we stop at the break, at lunch, at the break, and the end of the day, all of those, I'm going to answer questions. So your questions will get answered. And I promise you, I'll hang around at the end until I've answered the last question. So we're going to cover everything. That's going to be the format. We will be utilizing mostly PowerPoint. And then I'm going to be writing on this whiteboard behind me. And I think you'll actually like it better in this format than live, because in a lot of big rooms, you can't see what I'm writing on a flip chart up on the front. So it makes it a little bit easier. So that's what we're going to do. Tomorrow will be a repeat of what we're doing today structurally, so there won't be any changes there. If you have your own report, your personal or your own job fit report, you feel free to use it. But for some of you who've just gotten your report, you're not familiar with it, you might want to use the handouts and just use those and work through the material, because the material is talking about the handouts. And you'll keep, if you're looking at your own assessment, you'll keep having breakouts in your own brain where you'll start focusing on your own behavior and gee, I didn't know I was like that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? You'll get lost in your own melodrama, right? So if you stick with the materials, the handouts, you won't get caught up in the melodrama, because Madison Offenhauser is a pretty straightforward person. All right, so I'm going to get started, and I'm going to get started here with the whiteboard. So I'm going to go to presenter view, and I'm going to show you one thing for you to think about. Let's get out of that, and let's go.
I've already got you pinned as the main person.
Okay, you did?
Yes, dear, of course.
You are so awesome, as always. I need spotlight view. Come on, baby, give it to me. There we go. There we go. That's what I want. Okay, so this is a numbers game, and we're going to start off getting real clear about the biggest problem that is made in hiring. The single most common problem I see with my own people and that I've done in the past in hiring is very simple. And it's this: the number of applicants for the job. The way this works is you're going to have an opening, or you already have one, and you're going to have a job task list, but there's more to it than that. You're going to have other things you might want in a candidate, like speaks Spanish or French or something else. It's not just the task list. And altogether, that's the job description or the job narrative. And that's what you throw out with a net. You put it out. You put it out in several places. We'll talk about that later. But in come the resumes. In come the resumes. And the failure of making the right hire is almost always due to the failure to actually throw a net and get enough applicants. And the numbers work like this. And realize this is the key to making the right hire. You need 100 plus resumes. 100 plus. 100 plus. At the last live family reunion we did, I hosted a panel, and the topic on the panel was all people with large teams or market centers who have made a lot of hires. And the topic of the panel was, how do you find the right person to hire? Simple topic. And I asked every one of them right down the line, how many resumes do you think you need to get in order to be confident of great hires in that group? And the lowest number was 100. I remember one of the panelists was Karina Loken of the Loken group in Houston. And they did over $1 billion in sales this year. They have expansion. They got a big team. They got other market centers. They're like we are. They're hiring all the time. And she thought about it, man. She said, I would say 200, no, depending on the role, 200 to 400. Now, I know a lot of you are rolling your eyes in the back of your head on that, but I'm telling you, The people you want to hire are a minority of the population because you want to hire great. You don't want to hire good, and you certainly don't want to hire not good. You want to make a great hire, and those will be 1 in 100 or 1 in 200. So it starts with 100 plus applicants or resumes that come in. The resumes come in, they are applicants. And get that in your head, they are applicants. They are not candidates, they are applicants. They put the resume down in front of you, and they're totally not a match for the job. They're just applicants. You screen through that to get 30 possible candidates. Possible candidates. Possible, meaning I saw something on there on the resume that said they can do the 20%. When you get a resume, you're not looking for can they do all of these tasks specifically. You're looking for the 20% of the task list that creates 80% of the success in the role. And the 20% is what you're looking for on the resume. That's what you're looking for. So I spotted on a resume, it goes in the keep file. Nope, nope, nope. Oh, 20%, keep file. Now you're gonna qualify those people and narrow those down to 10. And you do that by the phone. And it's called a resume review, just talking to them on the phone about the 20%. You thought you saw 20%, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. You get on the phone and figure it out. Or face to face. So you're gonna be in a phone meeting or a face-to-face meeting to find out, can this person do the 20%? And out of that, you got 10 candidates, real candidates. And you're going to have 4 meetings potentially with each one of them, 4 meetings. And that literally means you got to start eliminating people. You've been doing nothing but once you accumulate these, you're simply eliminating, eliminating, and eliminating. So you narrow it down to 8, and you narrow it down to 6, you narrow it down to 4, and you get to 2. And the 2 finalists, hopefully you end up with 2. You make the job offer to either both, because you still got to negotiate salaries, compensation, benefits, all of that. So just because you have 2 doesn't mean you're going to come to terms with both. So you figure it out and you end up with a hire. A lot of times you just have 1 here, and a lot of times it's 26 and you've got 8 and you narrow it down to 1. I mean, but this is kind of a formula you need to keep in your mind. I need to get a boatload of resumes, and then I quickly narrow it down to 30. If you get 300, narrow it down to 30. If you get 100, narrow it down to 30. And then go through this. Now, this is what we're going to describe today, this process, all the way down to the hire. And now I'm going to get out of this and go to the PowerPoint. So those of you who have your manual ready to go, well, we're getting ready to go with the manual. Boom. This is what we're doing today. And now we're on page, let's see, 7. No one succeeds alone. We will be very clear about these things that we've already talked about. The profile is extremely important for job security and stability due to the lack of stress they're experiencing, but there's other stuff you've got to learn about, and that's what we're going to focus on. And we're also going to focus on the reality that the people that you're going to hire might be great for the hire today. They might not be great in the same role as you grow down the road. So there is a future self to them that you're going to explore. And that's one of the most important interviews. And that's the last one. And we'll talk about that. In other words, people, some of them can do the job you've got, and what they're looking for is a steady paycheck. Other people can come in and do the job, but what they want is an opportunity. So they want growth and they want more responsibility. And at some point, they not only want responsibility, they want authority, meaning they want someone underneath them to help them achieve their empire building. And that's what we're here to talk about today. You are going to be defined in business by the least of you, by the least of you. You can get 2 or 3 talented people on board, But then if you get one or two other people who aren't that talented, they can drag the business down. They can make the talented people quit because they don't support them at a high level. People will be your bane or will be your bounty. It depends on who they are. Look at page 9. You are who you surround yourself with. This is restating what I'm talking about right now. If you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with in business, your level of success is going to be the average of the 5 people you hire. Some of you are inside bigger organizations, market centers, or larger teams. If you're the rainmaker, then it would be about your direct reports. And then their people, each one of them, their people that they're responsible for are going to determine them. Sometimes in an organization, when you're having problems with a department, like a buyer agent team, the problem is not the buyer agents, the problem's the leader. And sometimes the leader's not the problem, it's the ability to hire properly that's the problem. And they're hiring the wrong people and they're not leading them properly. They're okay to do it, but they got to learn this, what we're taking here. By the way, there have been many university studies about this. And it boils down to be very careful about who you spend time with, because they will determine your outcomes more than you will. They will. Look at this bottom truth. If you're the average of the 5 people, we already talked about that. The bottom line to that is people will have more to do with your success than you are. Look at the next page here. Owning a job versus owning a business. In the Red Book, the MREA Red Book, it talked about agent businesses are organized in 7 different levels, from single agent to net $1 million, and the rainmaker potentially is no longer involved in the business in day to day. They have 7th level. They're off the team, so to speak. It all starts with I do it. I do it as a single agent. That's level 1. We do it is you've started a team. And the we do it would be levels 2 through 5. The agent is still active, but they're also hiring and leading people. And then they do it would be level 6. That's where the agent is the CEO of the business, no longer meeting with buyers or sellers. They're leading a group of leaders. They're leading the people in the organization. And it is all they do it from the rainmaker's perspective. They're the ones selling houses, listing property, and helping buyers buy. It's not me any longer. And that's a business. And then when it becomes theirs, that's 7th level. When it says theirs, it's 7th level. Now it's their business. It is an empire. And you've replaced yourself with another empire builder, someone with a similar or a like behavioral profile. And their opportunity is to take the empire you built that's 7th level and go beyond that. Best example of that is expansion. Someone who would come in and create an expansion director who would get out there and start creating new locations. And then the number of units you can sell is wide open. Look at this statement here. If you have to show up every day, you own a job, you do not have a business. I think a higher question is, do you have the life you want? That's a higher question. And for a lot of people, the real thing you should be focusing on is the life you want. In other words, building something that gives you the life you want. Some of you might need to hire one admin hire, full-time, high quality, and you would have the business you want because you could do 60 units a year, and you'd have the life you want because a lot of the stuff you hate, the paperwork, the hand-holding clients, is off your plate. That's what your high-quality admin will take care of. So it could be one person, or it could be 10 people, or it could be 50 people. I don't know. But the issue is, what does the life you want look like? And how many units do you need to sell in order to get the money to fund that life? And then what is the size of business that is in units? And how many people do I need to sell that many units? It's really a business proposition, business building. Look at the truth there on the bottom of this page. The one thing standing between owning a job and owning a business or an empire are the people you hire. And Gary Keller, if you've been watching, he has consistently brought empire builders into the organization, and they built an empire. Diana Kokoska with the maps department You look at this company and you see where it's been repeated over and over again. And now with Josh's team, we became a tech company, a totally different kind of company, and he needed a totally different kind of empire builder for a tech company, which is a tech person. So he brought in that person to build that empire, and that's exactly what he's doing. So look at this definition. Empire builders are business leaders and builders. That word is in red. Indispensable to growth. Indispensable, meaning without them, you don't get the growth you want. Typically, their track record and personality are results-oriented, decisive, and take charge. That is someone who wants an opportunity, because that's what they'll do.
Because that's what they'll do. Really,
the opportunity.
Very.
Okay, somebody needs to be on mute. So expand your vision to grow your world. Look at this question here on page 13. What is Gary Keller's job? What is Gary Keller's job? Gary's job is to cast a vision. He's got to have somewhere in mind he's trying to get to. This company, Keller Williams International, has to be focused on getting somewhere specific. Otherwise, it's just a drift. And when you're adrift, your competitors will eat you. They literally will take you down. You can't be adrift. And sometimes the company has to morph and morph again and morph again in order to keep succeeding and succeeding. And sometimes the vision changes along the way, because when you get to a certain mountaintop, you see something you didn't see, and now you are climbing a different mountaintop. That's exactly what Gary did in bringing Josh's team in. He got to the top of the mountain, being the #1 real estate company in the world, and then looked around and realized, you know what? The big enemies are the tech companies. The big enemies are not the brokerages. We've already beat them. It's now the tech companies. That's another mountain that had to be climbed, and he had to have a different empire builder to do it. But Gary's job is to have a big vision and attract empire builders, develop the empire builders, which is what he spent several years doing with Josh, and then give them opportunities and then watch them get after it. So what's your job? Your job, if you're the leader of the organization, you're an OP, you're a team leader, you're a mega agent, you're a lead agent, you're a director of lead generation. I don't care what your department is, what your thing is. You got to have a big vision. You got to attract talent. You got to develop the talent. Develop is different than train. It includes training, but it's developing. You got to help them become leaders. You got to create opportunities for them. You got to hold them accountable to the opportunity. And then you take market share. You take market share, big market share, because of them, not because of you. I'm very proud that our team, our residential sales team, has spawned 5 team leaders in Keller Williams. And I'm proud of that because I was able to attract talent, my wife and I, and develop talent. And when their abilities and their growth track indicated they can do something even bigger, typically I've had people that have moved out of agent roles and admin roles to move into higher level roles. We've also spawned MCAs off of the team. We've also spawned people that have built their own teams. I think it's 7 teams at this point have been created off of people being on our team. That's a sign that you're attracting the right people. And don't be afraid of that. Do not be afraid of hiring talent who one day will leave you to start their own thing. And it might be to start their own thing like your thing. Don't be afraid of that. Embrace that. Because what's your option? To hire people who don't have the talent level to drive and build something big. Well, guess what? They're not going to help you build big. The truth is, you need to be more afraid of not having talent in your organization than having talent that might leave you. Because while talent is with you, they lift the customer service, they lift the customer success, they lift the organization's success and culture. And without that, you are stuck, or you're at least growing slow and growing painfully. You want talent always, and you want to develop them even if it's to the point where they leave you. Yeah, your focus is 5 people, 6 people, 5 people, 4 people. Your focus is a handful of people. The recommendation here is 5 people underneath you. This is a simple graphical look at the beginnings of Keller Williams International. Gary had 6 people total, himself and 5 people, and he built up a company called Keller Williams, and then he started to grow. And as he grew, he didn't take on the responsibility of finding and hiring all the people necessary to grow. He started getting better people or people underneath him to go get the people that he needed. Mo Anderson is a fabulous example of that. A bunch of other people are examples of that. But you have to understand, big is not bad at all, but it is a handful of people that you will have to get right. And if you get those handful of people right, then they will go out and get their people right, hopefully. And if you keep doing that, it's so on and so on and so on. It's 200,000 people now worldwide. But Gary still, by going back up the ladder into KWX and being the chairman of the board, now this parent company, Gary's right back where we want him to be, which is looking forward and continuing to sharpen his focus on the vision of this company based on everything he can find out about the industry and where it is trending and where the public is trending. And you put that together, and that's why we became a tech company. And now there are other things to be looking at, and that's what he's doing, and that's what we need him to do. Look at the middle of page 17. It says, span of control as defined by the military refers to the number of people a leader oversees. Their studies, and these are centuries of studies, have shown the ideal number to be 5. 5. These are the people you pour into. Number 1, it says give them the training they need. Beside that, write 30, 60, 90. Provide them the leadership to achieve greater levels of success. Beside that, write STO, success through others. And then number 3, create opportunities as the organization grows. And that's built on your understanding of MREA 1 and MREA 2. If you're in a market center, it's your understanding of the growth of our model for a Keller Williams Market Center. We are no longer just a company for the interdependent agent. We still are the company for those people, but we now have opportunities for the independent and the dependent agent. And in doing that and spreading our vision for who we can actually serve in our Keller Williams Market Centers, we've changed some of the job duties and responsibilities. We've added the need for different positions. And we are becoming more like an MREA mega team than we've ever been before. In our market center right now, we've been interviewing telemarketers in order to feed the dependent agent. We're going to need to do lead generation. We're going to use telemarketers to do the nurturing or cultivation. We're going to use them to do the capture and then the cultivation and nurturing. And then the agent will be getting a highly qualified, ready to go lead or appointment. This makes our company look different. This makes you in leadership in a market center, you need to think different and you need to hire different people and you need to hold them accountable to produce the result that'll give the revenue that makes this whole thing make sense. Look at that big, bold statement. No matter your business and no matter your job, there should be no more than 5 key people in your focus at any one time. My wife and I made a big leap about 5 years ago when we hired a general manager to take over our brokerage operations. And that immediately, we went from 4 direct reports to 1. And that immediately allowed us to open 2 more businesses. And this is the whole point of this. When you keep your span of control really narrow with your people, then you can spend your time like Gary's done on thinking of the future and thinking on things to do. But if you've got 8 or 9 or 10 people, you're spending all your time with those people and there's very little time spent on vision and growth. And that is the truth of it. It's a 2-sided coin. Look at the question. Whose responsibility is it to find the five? Well, it's yours. It's nobody else's. Some of you, and this always happens, some of you, when you leave today or tomorrow, and you already have an organization that you're responsible for, you're going to be looking at your people harder. You're going to be maybe rethinking some of the hires you've made. And this is a very good thing. And I want to illustrate that. I think there's a tendency a lot of times to be taking this training and thinking about the new people you're going to hire. And obviously, if you've not hired anybody, that's all you will think about. But some people need to start with revisiting the people they've hired and realizing I've got some people in roles they shouldn't be in, and you need to replace them. You need to replace them. And this is not mean. I'm not trying to make somebody lose your job. You need to understand this thing about fit that we talk about, fit. If you've got somebody who's not a fit in a role and other people are, the other people aren't necessarily happy they're there. They know other people aren't happy that they're there. They often have conversations with you, if you're the direct report, that are not fun because they're not hitting their numbers, and you hold them accountable. And sometimes the stress is so high, they fudge their numbers. Does this sound familiar? And now you've turned them into a liar due to stress. And now they're lying. And now they're disappointed in themselves. And you've got them in this position and you're keeping them there. I'll never forget, I hired a team leader who on paper should have been fantastic. He'd been in the military. He was talented. He was shipped overseas, served a tour, was responsible for people, was brought back to be a teacher in one of the military academies. Amazing. He and his wife decided he would take an early retirement so they could start a family and have a different lifestyle. And he got into real estate and did really well right out of the gate, was rookie of the year, and had gotten to that point where he needed to make up his mind. Was he going to go into leadership or was he going to build a team? And he decided to pursue leadership, and I hired him. And everything about this person on paper, including his profile, his assessment, said fabulous hire. And after 6 months, he wasn't hitting the numbers. And I couldn't believe it. And I went to my team lead, or my regional director, and said, you got to help me here. I don't know what I'm missing here, but this should be working, and it's not. And our conversations are all hard. And she talked to him and she reviewed his package again. Remember, she'd approved his package, so she knew all about him. But she and I talked about it. She gave me some suggestions, and she said, this guy should be hitting it. You're right, but let's stick with it. So we stuck with it. I stuck with it for the rest of the year, his full year, and he still wasn't hitting it. And I couldn't take it. And I remember having a dream where I woke up, and my dream had been that I'd taken this patriot, this soldier, this accomplished leader of warriors who was considered brilliant enough to be a teacher, a professor in one of the military academies. And he was in a job that he was not succeeding in, and he wanted to stay in it. And I couldn't let that happen any longer. And the very next day, I let him go. And what I said to him is, I don't know what the problem is. It's me, it's the agents, it's the marketplace. I don't know what it is, and I don't care. At this point, what I care about is you need to go find the thing that you can do where you can be really successful, where you can be the person that you are and feel that again about being a highly successful, competent person. And this is not the right place for you. Now, it might not be as dramatic as that story, but if you've got the low man on your pole, the one that you know you have the hard accountability talks with over and over and over, you need to let him go and tell him what I told him. You need to go find what will make your day full of sunshine every day because you love your work and you're really good at it. This is not it. So some of you need to think about that. When you look at the issues are about talent versus non-talent. We say that a lot. I've already said it a lot. Let's talk about what that is. Talent is a motivated person who is a perfect match for the job that is a next logical step along their career path. This is your job. A perfect match is someone who has knowledge, skills, track record, and personality to get the job done and are a cultural fit. I would circle that. You can have the right player, but if the teammates are not the right teammates, if they don't match, they're not going to be in sync. Cultural fit matters. And we never address that formally in the hiring process until this version of career visioning. And they've done it beautifully with the team meet. And the team meet, which you'll learn about later, is where the people they're going to work with get to meet and assess this person. And that's a huge benefit. So when you look at this box down below on page 19, non-talent in a role brings you non-talent now brings you problems. Yeah, they do. I'm so glad you came in. I have a problem I need your help on. Now, if you have talent in the role, what does talent do? They find solutions. Remember that thing about intelligence? One of the main benefits of talent is that they solve problems. And I can't say that any clearer. Talent solves problems. If talent has a problem that they can't figure out a solution, when you do show up, this is what they'll tend to say to you. You know, I've got a problem I've really been struggling with. I think I have 2 possible solutions, and I'd like your input on these solutions. Non-talent says, I'm so glad you're here. I have a problem, and I just don't know what to do. That's a sign of low talent or lower intelligence because I can't figure it out. And if you want to have a growing organization, you need people who'll figure problems out as you grow, because that is exactly what growth creates, is problems. And if they can't solve the problems, guess whose plate they land on? Yours. And what are you now doing? You're not at the top leading upward and forward. You're now back down a couple of runs, stuck with somebody who can't solve problems. Number 2, talent or non-talent doesn't fulfill your needs and ends up giving you pieces of the job back. Oh my God. That's a US jet flying over right now where I am. There is nothing more fun in life than sitting down and showing somebody how to do something for the 17th time and have the aha that I'm paying you to watch me do your job. That's just terrible. If you look at talent in the role, talent shares your goals and fulfills your needs as a natural byproduct of fulfilling their own. Number 3, non-talent doesn't know what they want and isn't searching. That translates into something simple. They're looking for a job. Their question is, what is the pay? And can you describe the benefits package to me? That's the language of someone not looking for anything other than a steady paycheck. Talent says, I saw what the compensation is, and I know I can do this job. What I want to know is, where am I going to be in 3 to 5 years if I do join your organization? That is what you're looking for. Non-talent requires pushing. Oh my God. If you drive up to the office and you're getting out of the car and all you can think about is, Bob, what am I going to do with Bob? How am I going to get Bob to do his job better? That's not the way to think about somebody that you keep. The way you think about people that you keep is you arrive up to work, you're smiling, and you're saying, Bob is so awesome. I'm so blessed to be in business with Bob. I got to give Bob some kind of treat because he's just blowing my mind ever since the beginning of the year. Bob has done fabulous. That's the way you need to think. Number 5, non-talent may not know where the bar is set or even what bar you're talking about. Yeah, they know what the bar is. Number 6, doesn't care who they spend time with and repels talent. You need to really understand that. You literally will not get certain hires in the first place, or you won't get them to stay if you have people who don't carry their own water, or even better, provide new stimulus, new opportunities for the team because of their intelligence and their motivation. And then number 7, when they try to talk action and results, they can't. What that really means is they can't back it up. They don't typically know their numbers. So how many deals did you write up last week? Hold on, let me pull up the computer and check. Oh my God. Talented people know exactly where the scorecard is. They know where they're at. People who know they're not going to hit the goals don't track the goals because they don't want to know the answer. People's behavior is very telling. You have three choices when you're going after talent. It is this: potential, emerging, and proven. Potential, recent college graduate. Emerging, somebody who's out of college or out of school. They've had a couple of jobs, maybe more jobs, and they have done the job right before your job. So your job is the next job in line for them. A really easy example is somebody who's been a productivity coach might be ready to become a team leader if they have the right profile, etc. A showing assistant, it might be ready to become a buyer agent. This is all really obvious stuff. And then proven is someone who's done the job, done the same job. And there's a funny thing about that. You actually have to be careful about that. Typically, we avoid the proven hire because they're the most expensive. Emerging is less expensive and potential is the cheapest. The big issue, though, is talent and those issues of intelligence, motivation, and integrity. And I live in Florida, and what I have found over 2 decades of hiring team leaders and other people is that there are people who are doing the role. I've hired a team leader who's doing the role in a different office up north, and they decide they want to move to Florida and get out of the cold. This happens a lot. It's happening a lot right now. They want to get out of the cold and move to Florida. And what they want to do is work for a few years, and then they'll finally retire. And I've hired that person. And the reality is they know how to do the job so good that they know how to coast and hit the minimum numbers and do what they need to do to keep the job. But they're not looking for any bigger empire opportunity. They're just coasting. So I'd be very careful about assuming proven is the best thing. Some of the best hires I made have been literally out of potential. I believe in hiring recent college graduates. I don't think that they are a risk if you do your job right with this process. Because the right person, again, what are we looking for? Motivation, intelligence, and integrity. The right person will pick up what they need to pick up and learn to do the job quickly and effectively. And if they're younger than the people that they're leading, if they're the right person, they will earn their respect. They will earn it. And they're used to that because they're young and they've got leadership in their past, and they have shown the level of leadership to others around them who've put them into that leadership. And that's the same thing they'll do with you. The good news for all of you is this: COVID has wrecked our economy. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. It's wrecked our economy. We have millions of Americans out of work. We have even more millions that haven't lost their jobs, but they're thinking they might lose their job, or they're no longer happy with their job. And they're looking, they're all looking. So what we're seeing, and I think you'll see this too, is there are more people available today for almost any role. In other words, you'll get more resumes than we were getting in January, when the unemployment rate was 3%. And today the unemployment rate is hovering between 6 and 7%. And there's a lot of talented people available. This is a benefit. This is a good thing for us. We need to help people who are unemployed or about to be unemployed by snapping them up if they're talent and getting them into our organizations. And you can do this now. So when you look at this as a path, as a straight line path, people have trajectories. And again, that potential has a trajectory, And I assure you, you can find it. So don't assume somebody who's a recent college graduate. And by the way, recent college graduates today have a dismal job market. It's not good. I mean, it's not good if they're business graduates. It's not good. So I think you can find talent. Here's what we look for. And I'm kind of cutting to the chase here. This is a hack. If you have a college graduate who graduated in 4 years or less, 4 years or less, and they graduate with honors, 3.5 or higher, and they, quote, worked all the way through school. And work is a big thing to me, a big definition. Work could literally be work, a job. They had a job to help pay for their college because they didn't want the debt. Or work could be they played on the soccer team. They got a soccer scholarship and they played all 4 years, or they were in the band all 4 years, or they did theater all 4 years. Anybody who graduated on time with honors and had a full-time job working on something, that is a talented, driven individual. That is somebody who that behavior will continue, and realize this is a learning-based person, and realize a lot of these people are literally being coached or consulted, and they are team players. There's so much good about that. We've had very successful hires having that. That's just a little hack here. Look at this truth here on the page. Emerging talent is the sweetest spot, more predictable than potential talent, and a wiser long-term investment than spending money on proven talent. Again, there's issues there that I've already talked about. There's a tale of talent on this page 23, and you should read this when you go back and reread the manual, but I'm just going to scan it for you real quickly. It talks about someone in our company who's amazing, Smokey Garrett, and Smokey is today the head of Keller Mortgage. But when he started off, you can look at this in the middle. He is potential here in the middle. In college, Smokey Garrett cowboyed in the rodeo. He was so talented, he won the National Cutting Horse Association Award for Rookie of the Year. While he was in college, he was steadily doing athletics, horses in this example. His ambition was to ride professionally, but when he hurt his back, he turned his focus into his studies, graduating with a double major, business and marketing, motivated and intelligent, right there. He decided to go into real estate for a year, looking for opportunities to learn and grow professionally, as well as investment opportunities to start growing his wealth. That is vision. That is forward looking. He's looking for the opportunities of a big success ahead of him. He's not looking for a steady paycheck. And then you move to emerging on the bottom. Smokey ended up loving real estate, stayed in the industry for the opportunity to live a big life. He was Rookie of the Year. By his third year, was 18th in the entire franchise, selling 118 homes. Motivation. By his fourth year, he was burned out, could see no path to life. He attended Quantum Leap with Gary Keller, intelligence, and joined KW for the career building opportunities, joined the ALC, plugging into all the miles, grew his team to 13, earned $1 million in GCI, and only worked 3.5 days a week. All of that is motivation, intelligence, and integrity. And then on the top, the proven, looking for opportunities to build an even bigger business. He took on the team leader role in Arlington, a market center in transition. That's a kind way to say where they were. With a new vision to become number one in the market, and then the region, and then KW. Everybody laughed at him because it was a mess. By starting from scratch and with new staff, a new vision, a new staff, within 6 years, they'd achieved the vision. The following year, Smokey opened up 13 more market centers and became area director. He now holds a position of regional director. Actually, he's the head of Keller Mortgage now. You need to just think about that arc and all of the evidence from college about this is a driven, smart, motivated person with integrity. And the reason I say integrity is because you don't get opportunities keep being given to you and given to you and given to you, and you don't keep winning with consumers and your company unless you have integrity. It just doesn't happen. So this page here is an exercise about you changing your actions, and it simply asks this question. Think about successful hires. What did you do in the hiring process to enable that success? I'm going to tell you right now, number one issue is time block. Time block. You need to hire somebody. You better start putting aside time in your calendar to work on this. And it'll take phases. The first phase is figuring out what the job description is and throwing that net. The next phase is screening through resumes to get to the people you're going to put time into And then the next phase is that elimination phase of getting, 10 down to the people you're going to hire. And all that is going to take time. If you got down to 10 people and you start eliminating people, you're going to spend 1 hour meetings at each one of those levels. So it's going to take you about 28 hours to take 10 people down to the 2 people you might hire. And that's minimum. That's not the preparation time for the 1 hour meetings that you're going to have. So it's about time blocking. Think about the hires who fail. What did you do in the hiring process to enable their failure? It's classic. You don't follow the model. You don't get enough resumes, or you don't do a good enough job on reference checking, or you don't ask short questions and then probe and probe and probe, and you don't have a mindset of what I'm really looking for here. Those are the problems that happen. And then do any limiting beliefs keep you from the goal of changing your actions? The most common limiting belief I've seen is that I can make a great hire out of 22 applications. That's not real. If you have 22 applicants, 22 resumes, there's usually going to be one that looks way better than the others. But good always looks better than not good. But that doesn't mean they're great. They're a long way from great. And that's what people do more than anything else. So page 27, this is obvious, and you're all volunteers here. So I don't think we have prisoners here, although it's possible. You may have been told you have to take this because it's your responsibility. But I don't think you would be a prisoner if you have that responsibility to hire people inside your organization. This should bring joy to you to take this, because this is going to make you more effective, and it's going to eliminate, to some degree, having problems down the road. In a live room, I can easily see the prisoners and the vacationers because they all do the same thing. And while I'm talking, they're doing this. And some of them are just blatant. Well, they're not paying attention. And here's the important point. Wherever you are, whatever you're supposed to be doing, focus on it. Focus on it. And if you don't see value in what it is that you're doing, leave and go do something that does matter. And I mean that very seriously, very seriously. I've had a lot of training for myself. And I do a lot of training. And I'm telling you, training can change your game. But you have to understand the training, and then you have to go implement. But the first step is you have to understand the training. And a lot of people who do this leave saying, oh, it's great, I got so many great ideas. And they don't implement because they don't see the big picture of how it all weaves together. So they simply don't do it. Okay, this is not any of you. I hope. All right, personality. Personality. What is personality? We use that word in this training a bunch. Personality are individual patterns of behavior and thinking. Behavior is how a person acts, and thinking is how someone processes ideas and solves problems. Look at that middle paragraph on page 31. Knowledge and skills are important, but can be learned. Everyone's personality, however, comes naturally to them because it starts in the subconscious. These qualities can be flexed, but are not likely to change significantly after a person is in their early 20s. Some schools of thought say a human's behavior is fixed very young, 3 years, 5 years of age. Some say it's later, late adolescence, 10, 11, 12. Some think it's puberty. Some think it's young adulthood, 17, 18, 19. And some think it's late 20s. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I do know about my 4 children. I have 2 boys and 2 girls. And I can tell you without a hesitation that 3 of the 4, their behavior was fixed very early. I had one child, my wife and I have one child whose behavior changed in her 20s. And her behavior changed in her 20s. And we think we understand why, but the others, early on. I mean, my youngest son and my youngest daughter is older than him. And when he was 3, He discovered he just loved kicking a soccer ball. And that's because his oldest brother, my oldest child, was a soccer player, won state championship, by the way. So he's a really good soccer player. So he was kicking the ball around with him a lot. So he loved soccer, and he would be on the playground. He'd kick that ball and he'd chase it. And he'd kick that ball and he'd chase it. And if any other kid got in his way, he'd run him over. His older sister, she was 5 at the time. She knew him. She knew that's his behavior. She'd run around behind him, picking up the little kids who fell over. Say, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Classic behavior. Classic behavior. So think about these issues. Personality is or is not. Skills, experience, education, or training. It is not that. Remember, that can be learned. It is not that. The way someone processes ideas and problems. It is that. Definitely that. Intelligence is not. Intelligence is not personality. It's not. The way a person acts and behaves definitely is that. Positively is that. Values, beliefs, ethics, or motivations is not that. It's not that. Your religion, your morality, whatever, that is your integrity. That is not personality. And then a reason not to hire someone. Now think about that. It ends up being a double negative potentially. Personality is a reason not to hire someone, or personality is not a reason not to hire someone, is not. In other words, you do not hire somebody because of their personality. You don't. The short answer, we have people with the right personality in the bottom of performance. They're in the group of the worst performers, and they have the right personality. So that makes it automatic that you don't hire people based on personality, because that doesn't mean squat. They could be in the bottom quartile, the third quartile, the second quartile, and never be in the first quartile. I hope that sinks in, because too many people think, oh my God, they're a perfect match. And you hear the joy in their voice when they say that, and they're now going blind on all the other issues because they think, that's it, I got the right person. No, you don't. You have someone who has the right profile, that does not make them the right person. Now, again, we're not diminishing the power of personality at all. Look at this. And this is on page 33. People who use their strengths every day are 6 times more likely to be engaged on the job. 6 times. What does that mean, being engaged on the job? I'll tell you what it means. They often will show up early, and they're at their work. And when you just walk by or you check in on them during the day, they're always working. They're on it. And why is that? Because they're suited for the work, meaning the work is more relevant to some sense of accomplishment and actual fun or joy. And you know that old saying, and this is something we told our kids, you got to find the work. You got to find the work for money that actually gives you joy. And when you do that, you'll never have a hard day at work, ever. You'll have challenging days, but you'll love your work even when it's hard. And I truly believe that. I had 2 career paths prior to getting into real estate. And the fact is, I was living out, like most kids, I was living out the instructions my parents had programmed into my head. And so did my relatives. My relatives reinforced my parents' program. The program was, I should get a great education and go to college and graduate and get a job with a Fortune 500 company and rise up in the company to become, regional vice president of widget production or whatever. And that was their vision, and build my resume and have matching 401k funds, so my retirement is getting taken care of, and I have all the medical and dental insurance I need, and I have prestige in my field, blah blah blah. And I get all that, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just wasn't right for me. And I tried that twice, and going to work, it was just like, never gave me joy. I was good at it. Never gave me joy. My wife and I both discovered that's where we were, and we quit our jobs. Both of us realized we're on the wrong track. and we went into real estate together. And we did it because what we really believed we were was entrepreneurial, and we were willing to try something. And if it went belly up, it wouldn't match the pain of continuing to have careers that we didn't enjoy. So we were willing to go for it, even if it meant losing. And we did it. And here we are today. We didn't lose. We have 10 businesses now. And we have 10 businesses simply because we're entrepreneurial. And we like opening and starting businesses and getting a talented person to be in charge and run it, and then go do another one. And that's what we both like doing that. And when I found that, let me tell you, there's way more joy, and it's tough. A lot of times it's very tough, but that doesn't change the fact that there's joy, even when it's tough, of being in charge of my destiny. And that's what I wanted. Number 2, productivity, simply learning strengths. Simply learning strengths makes employees 7.8% more productive and engaged. Why do you think that would be? Their performance is higher and they are less likely to leave the company. Why do you think that would be? It's because of confidence. If I know that actually this task that I'm in charge of, I'm actually well suited to do that, I'm going to be more confident in it. And when you're confident, your success goes up. Mindset, attitude increases productivity. And that's what this is about. So discovering your strengths as well as awareness of your weaknesses creates clarity and creates confidence. And most people, if they can succeed at a high level of something, there'll be other stuff attached to that role that they're not going to be really that good at, and they need to use leverage, systems, tools, or people to get it off their plate so they can focus on their chief talent. And then health and happiness. The more they are able to use their strengths to do what they do best each day, the more likely they are to report feeling energetic, well-rested, happy, and respected. And the less likely they are to report feeling worried, stressed, angry, sad, or in physical pain. You know what that is? That's job satisfaction. Job satisfaction. That's engagement. This is why we want the profile to match the role. But something I said earlier, I'm going to say again now, maybe more clearly. But people who are not a match, but get into a role and then do it very successfully over and over and over and over time with repetition, their job stress diminishes because they simply get very good at it. Remember, if you're intelligent and you're asked to do a job you're not a high match for, you'll figure out your own little hacks to deal with the issues that pop up because you're not a high match for it. Literally, you'll figure it out. And if you do that, you can win. You can win in it. But this is why the KPA matters. Predicting personality. We're going to take a break in about 10 minutes. Predicting personality. Look at this. There's 3 ways to figure it out. The first one, ask personality-based questions. The second one, live with them for a long time. And the third one, give a personality assessment. The most is asking personality-based questions or living with them, and the least is the assessment. Let's say that again. Living with them, you learn everything. This is why hiring talent at the bottom is hugely important, because then you keep moving people up. And right now, all of our leaders but one were people that moved up in our organization, which meant I didn't need 100 resumes. There was one person that we talked to about the job, and it was somebody already in the organization that we had time with. And then the least important is giving a personality assessment. But where it says ask personality-based questions, it's about asking the right questions and about peeling down. It's about becoming a very, very competent interviewer. And that is something you learn through practice. And as I said at the start of the day, these exercises in here, if you're not going to get a peer partner, someone who's taking this also, and realize you can do this through Zoom. So you have 100+ people taking this right now today, or you can find people in your market center. You need to find people who want to commit to excelling in this. the best place for you to invest time and money if you want big success is people. And that means the most important skill set for you to learn to be the most successful person you can be is the skill set of getting in business with the right people, training them and holding them accountable and working with them over time. And that's what these courses are about. So when is each most effective? We already kind of cleared this up. Live with them a long time is what you'll do after you hire them. So you're going to find out one way or the other during the process and at the start of the process. That's obvious. Understanding personality on page 36. And this is Gary's quote here now. I want to just skim this for you on page 36. What's in a number? Does the sum of digits, does the set of digits sum you up? Personality assessments have a long history in KW. Starting in the 80s, Gary had used a number of different tools, and I've experienced every one of those tools, each with a different focus. The first had no job match rating, was replaced by an assessment that had a job match rating, which was ultimately replaced. That was the caliper, replaced with the AVA that assigned a job match rating and behavioral formula. And because things happen fast, people were reduced to a set of numbers, labeled, put in a box. I remember that period when we were up to our eyeballs in Recruit Select and the AVA, and people were literally asking, what's your number? What's your number? What's your number? What's your number? And that's the way people thought. And I remember people telling me, oh, you won't believe it. I found an 8912, a perfect team leader. I'm hiring her today. And that was so stupid, it wasn't funny. So here's what Gary says. Ultimately, we believe it led to a lot of shortcut thinking that doesn't serve anyone in the long run. What we want to understand is the whole person, who they are, and then and only then determine if they're a good match for a role. That's why we study the behaviors, and behaviors could also be known as motivation and integrity and thinking, and that is intelligence, that make up a unique personality. So we study their motivation and their thinking, which is another way of saying we look at their motivation, we look at their integrity, and we look at their intelligence. And that's what you're really looking for. So page 37 starts to talk about the KPA, and we're going to take a break right now. And when we come back, we're going to dig into the KPA, but we're going to first see if we have any questions. So I'm going to, come on, stop sharing. And do we have any questions?
One was interesting, Gene. It says, would you not hire, but wouldn't you not hire someone because of the personality? And they gave the example that, if they didn't mesh, like, for example, this one person, Susan was saying that, she works with her mother and her mother was a top agent, but they're not jiving together, right? Like, would you not hire somebody because of that personality? Because you have to work with them every day. What if you don't like them? What if you don't jive with them? Would that be a determiner for you?
Sure, but that's the culture question, isn't it?
Right.
That's the culture question.
Exactly.
That thing about, is this a right fit? And that's absolutely real. That is tremendously real. There is a culture fit that has to work. Even if it's just one person, it has to work.
Right.
And that's why we have the team meet. However, and this is a big however, if you have a team meet, and we're jumping ahead, but it doesn't matter. If you have a team meet, if I get 6 people that are in my organization to meet a potential person who's going to join their group, and let's say the 6 people I've got are all 80% of what I want in the role. So they're pretty darn good, but they're not great. But this one is 98%. Guess what they're going to say? I don't know if he's going to fit in here. He seems kind of tough and kind of aggressive and assertive. I don't know about him. I don't know about him. And then your decision is, okay, all right, so do I hire him and realize we're going to run some of them off, and that's okay because he's going to be the lead agent. He's going to get the right people on board. So you got to be careful about that, right?
Right. A lot of this stuff was kind of about, like, how do you get more resumes and things like that. And I think a lot of this stuff we're going to cover with the KPA that's coming. So the last statement, though, I do think is cute. It says, and no question, just a statement, you're amazing, Gene Rivers. Appreciate your humor, knowledge, and experience. There's a lot of that going on. So Brittany and many others are really happy you're here. Very sweet. A lot of love. A lot of love.
Kiss.
And then Nicole shared, and this is a legitimate thought that probably a lot of people are thinking. She says, I'm really worried about trying to hire and still be a top producing agent. I just started a team and only have a TC. I think
Okay, let's talk about that. Spot on. I hear this a lot. I don't know when I'll find the time to train them. Oh my God, oh my God. Oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. Think about how silly it sounds. You're going to get 40 hours a week of labor. And you think that's not going to save you time? You're looking at it so wrong. There is a training period issue, no question about that. But the whole point of hiring people is to get 2,000 hours into my life that I can use however I want to use it, so that I can be free to go do other stuff. And there is no other option. You got to understand that there is no other option. If you want to keep your life worth living, but keep growing, it'll always end up, you got to hire somebody. You got to hire, it's going to end up there, period. You can't do everything you want out of your life by yourself. It's not, I mean, unless you're Picasso and you can sell paintings for $1 gazillion, it's going to be more than you to build an empire, right? No, seriously.
Yeah.
Really skilled artists can sometimes do that. They don't need anybody else, but actually they end up needing accountants and people to book and people to put their art in galleries, right? They end up needing people. But the bottom line is there is no option, and it's simply foolish to think hiring people is a time suck. It's not. It's a time gain. It's the way you get your life big time on track.
So it's the stepping back to move forward, right? Because she said, so if you slow down and don't panic, if she's not closing as many deals for like a month, it's not the end of the world. Because then think about the acceleration clause, right?
Yeah.
Great person.
Well, let's talk about that just for one more minute. You need to understand this, the 30, 60, 90, which is tomorrow's topic, but the 30, 60, 90 says you got 3 months where you got to get them into production. And the truth is, for a lot of small businesses, like you're an agent hiring your first admin, what they're going to do that's called training is they're simply going to shadow you. And you're going to explain everything you're doing while you're doing it. You literally aren't going to do anything different. You're not going to like 4 hours sit in a room and train them. That's not happening. You're going to keep doing what you're doing, and you're going to be explaining what you're doing with them. So they shadow you. And they end up creating your systems and documenting your systems into manuals. And in a month, you have a prototype system manual that they're filling out. And in the second month, they're now implementing the systems that they built out of watching you and talking to you about, well, why do you do this? And why do you do that? And why do you do that? And then they are memorializing it. So they're literally taking what you do and turning it into a system on paper that can be tracked. And by the end of 3 months, you have rolling systems in place and you're working less than you've ever done. And the last thing I'll say is you start gaining time right away. In other words, second day on the job. Okay, I've got a listing. Let's go out to the listing. Okay, I like the sign put up like this, not like this. Got it? And if you hired the right person, they're writing notes. They're just writing notes and they're writing notes. Okay, we need to get the keys made. Here's where I get the keys made. There's Bob, Joe, and Curly. Only Curly makes a good key, so you get Curly to make the key. Now, that second day, you'll never put a sign up again. You'll never get a key made again. You show them how to make the initial brochures. There's a template. You pull the template up. You drop in the pictures. You hit print. It prints on the company copier. You go get the copies. You'll never make another copy again. You're done. So you're shredding jobs fast. A lot of this menial junk is off your plate quick. And if they can't pick that stuff up quick and say, got it, I got it. Don't worry about me, Melanie. I got it. You'll never put up another sign. You'll never make another key. You'll never make a brochure. I got it. If you hired the right person, they actually have it.
Yeah, and that's why it's so good you guys are with us for 2 days, because today is all about up to the hire. Here's the offer, boom, welcome to my world. And then tomorrow, the morning is all what he just said, 30, 60, 90. Now what? Because the biggest mistake agents make is they don't do that. They don't slow down to do it the right way and say, here's how you make the key, here's how I want the sign done, and then go do it. And then it's staying long-term. So all of these sections tie together. And it's brilliant. One question though, Jean, just because I know a lot of people were asking me this, lunch we usually do around noon, right? People were asking. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have a lunch break around noon, so y'all will be able to eat. So Susan, put it in the chat if you had a question.
It'll definitely be noon because that's 1 o'clock my time. And I'll
Oh
be
yeah, you'll
ultra
be
hungry.
hungry.
Don't worry about missing noon, baby. We're going to hit noon.
Oh, we're gonna hit noon. Okay, Susan had a quick question and then we'll go to break, huh?
Yep.
How long's break gonna be, Jean? 10 minutes or what?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
10:27.
10
10
minutes.
minutes. Okay,
Most of
perfect.
you are just going to go raid your refrigerator, right? I mean, 10
Exactly,
minutes.
right? I'm gonna, yeah.
There's
exactly.
no line at the potty, I hope, where you are.
Exactly. Well, Susan, we can get your question right after the break. So, you want to just take the break, or she's still typing away? I can tell that face. Okay, when I'm not the organized person in hiring because of organization, I might say, I can't do this, but I want you to do this. So I'm hoping to hire someone to organize me better. That's very common, right, Jean?
That's exactly right. And that's literally what happens is they shadow you and they memorialize what you do and the way you do it. And that turns into a system. A system is simply written down and tracked.
Yeah.
And tracked.
Right.
But until it's written down,
right.
See, all of you have systems, but until you institutionalize it or memorialize them by writing them down, then it's uneven service. When you get busy, you drop stuff.
Yeah.
When you're not busy, you do everything exactly the way you'd like it to be done. But when you hire somebody and they memorialize it, now every single buyer and every single seller is treated exactly the same way because it's defined and tracked. And that literally is the key to uniform customer service, which is the key to powerful repeat and referral business. And one more benefit of that, the minute you do that, you now have scalability in your business. So you want to sell 100 units, you won't do that until you have memorialized or created the system where you can track how you treat all these people.
And yes, Susan, they will improve it. They will plus it. So if you are not that organized mindset, they will come in and help take those to a whole nother level. So yes, that's exactly why you're making that hire, girl. No excuse when you're not organized. It'll think about how your world's going to rock. Okay. It's 10:29. Be back at 10:40.
10:40.
Okay. See you back at 10:40, guys.
Talent and hold them accountable. Period.
So I'm in the process of hiring people. I used a consulting firm because I don't have the time to go through it, just like whatever. I don't know if you know the Ciprianis. I think you may know them. Anyway, they're in Pennsylvania. But I have one in each field, like the potential, emerging, and proven. So I hope you can talk to that. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about all of that later, but just keep at it. Just keep at it.
Okay,
it's like your missionary work, right? You just keep at it. You're never done.
I got a quick question.
Okay.
So, have you ever read the Dream Manager? Have you ever implemented any of that into holding on to employees by Matthew Kelly?
Well, the best way you hold on to employees, if you get talented people, Edgar, the way you keep them is you keep providing opportunity and growth. And that's how you keep them.
So the whole premise of the book is the Dream Manager. So you literally sit them down, on onboarding and say, what are your dreams? What are your aspirations? And then quarterly you meet with them and see where they are on track to meeting those dreams and aspirations.
Well, that's built into the material, Edgar.
Right. Okay. Exactly.
The last interview you do is called the motivational interview, and the motivation you're talking about is what it looks like if they're with you 3 to 5 years. What does that look like? And then you literally have a roadmap on how they'll get there. And that roadmap is about them achieving higher levels of responsibility and or authority. So you will be a junior agent, and then you become a buyer agent. And when you do 4 a month, then in your 3rd year, you can get a showing assistant and go to 100 a year, right? You map it out and you'll be making $250,000. So you have that roadmap, and you have to develop the talent. They have to take training, but you also have to work with them on their leadership abilities, and you work them to those opportunities. That's exactly right. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're recording again. So back to you.
Okay. I'm going to pull the PowerPoint back up again because we're in the material. Deep. Here we go. I'm on page 37 now. Oops. Okay. What's going on here?
Okay. So we see.
There we go.
There we go.
Page 37. We're talking about the KPA now, and particularly if this is your first time, I just want you to take it in. It'll all make more sense later. The KPA is the most elegant and most powerful tool we've ever had to do this. The validity rating, meaning how often someone says, yep, that's me, is the highest of any tool we've ever had, well into the 90 percentile. So it's a great tool. And realize it doesn't tell you that somebody's the person to hire, period. It does tell you whether behaviorally they're a match or not for the job. And if they're not a match for the job, then there'll be other issues that you're going to have to focus on. But if they are a match for the job, you know that they'll have lower job stress than people who aren't. Everything is scored on a graph, and you can see it, and it says low, medium, and high. I've talked to Leslie Vandergeist about this. So you get that. So it's 1 up to 9 and 10. So it's definitely low, medium, and high. But the truth is, when you look at behavior on these scales, what you should see is on the left and the right, where it says low and high, I think you need to think about fixed behavior. And in the middle, where it says medium, I think you need to think about flexible behavior. And you'll understand that in a minute when we look at it. Realize that this tool is a much better tool than what we used before. And the validity rating, again, is super high. It says something that all personality schools say. This is what we talked about. On either end is fixed, and in the middle is flexible. There are 4 primary traits. These are the traits most associated with behavior on the job or personal life: assertiveness, sociability, responsiveness, and structure. Those of you that are familiar with other schools of thought, you'll recognize this. The DISC has 4 primary. The AVA had 4 primary. This is common in schools of psychology, that people are oriented in 4 directions. And if you think about it very simply, it boils down to people being fast or slow, and people are about people or not about people. They're about goals or things. And that's typically people. So people that are about people and are fast are what a team leader profile looks like. People that are fast and about not people, that's what an OP looks like. They're focused on goals or numbers or success. And people that are about people and slow are typically going to be the S, and people that are slow and not about people are the C, if you're thinking about the DISC. So everything is talking about the same realities about people. We're focused more on people than not people, or not people over people. And we tend to move faster than general population, or we tend to move slower. And that's it. It's really pretty simple. And then we have these modifier traits of adaptability, intensity, and optimism. So someone who has a high level of responsiveness and a high level of intensity can be on fire all the time. But if they have a low level of intensity, then their responsiveness might still be fast, but it might not be explosive, or it might not be assertive in a sense. So we're going to look at these one by one and just understand that there are other traits too. There are 4 other traits that are the thinking traits, and we'll talk about those later. These traits are measured on the personal report. So if you've gotten your personal report, I don't know if you can see it. I'm in a little box on your deal. That's what it looks like. Those are all in there. When you get a job fit report, it will include the thinking traits, because everybody has primary and modifier traits. But when you have a job, a specific job, then the thinking traits matter a great deal. So so we'll talk more about that later. So let's dig into these. The modifier traits are just what they are. They add fire or cool down the primary traits. So here's the first one, assertiveness. Now on the left side, where it says reserved, compare that to the right side where it says assertive. So here's the point. Those are 2 different behaviors, and they're both fixed. So the person is dedicated to those behaviors. So on the lower end, 0, 1, 2, 3, they achieve goals through cooperation and good planning. On the right side, they're determined, persistent, and direct. On the left side, they're conservative in action. On the right side, the far right, they're willing to move forward, take actions, and solve problems. The left side, they move slowly. Faced with obstacles, they tend to stop and reassess options before moving forward again. On the right side, they'll go and they may be confrontational, stubborn, or disagreeable. That's often an entrepreneurial kind of behavior. And then on the left side, again, typically receptive to the actions of others. So it's not like it's one behavior and it's very low and then it's very high, but it's one behavior. No, being reserved or being assertive are different behaviors, just different behaviors. And you can see that. And in the middle, you're flexible. Now, here's the point of this. If somebody's a 1 or a 2 or a 9 or a 10, they're fixed in that. A 9 or a 10 is not going to be able to be a 1 or a 2 situationally. They can't do it. They're committed to those behaviors. Someone who's a 5 or a 6 can be a 7 or an 8 when needed, if the job required them to occasionally do that, or if the job required them to be a 2 or a 3 and they're a 5, they can do that. And they can do these swings of flexibility for short periods of time, depending on how intense it is on either end. In other words, being really reserved to somebody who's very assertive, that's an intense thing for them to try to be quiet and church mousy, right? That's intense, that hurts. I've tried to do that, I can't do it. So understand that that's what's going on here. And there are a lot of roles where we want somebody who literally on certain traits is in the middle so that they can play both sides. But the people on either end are not going to play anything but that song. And that's the song they're going to play. They are simply driven. On the high end, on assertiveness, just think entrepreneur, think someone who's a rainmaker, think OP of a market center. These typically are people that have a high level of assertiveness and they are willing to move forward. My wife and I have 10 businesses because she and I both are willing to move forward. 2 of the market centers we own were failing and we bought them and they were losing. One lost $268,000 in 14 months and we took it. Now that's a high assertiveness, willing to move forward despite what seemed to be clear obstacles. We did it. By the way, that one's very profitable today. Yeah, so turn to the next page. Sociability. Again, you've got the task-oriented side and the people-oriented side. People are about people or they're about tasks or goals or objectives. On the high end, people-oriented, driven to interact with others, prefers not to work alone for extended periods of time, and actively seeks new relationships, tends to have a wide circle of contacts and acquaintances. That is a team leader. That's what a team leader looks like. Really successful team leaders. Look at this. Their profile is actively seeking new relationships. They don't look at getting on the phone and making recruiting calls as doing that. They look at it as, I might find my new BFF today. It's an exciting thing for them to do. Somebody who's task-oriented thinks, oh my God, I don't know how you do it, talking to all those people, all those different people, all the time, every day, it would drive me insane. That's the difference. So task-oriented on the lower end, introspective, enjoys working with things and ideas, must work at interacting with others, and may find long periods of social interaction stressful. Low sociability does not indicate unfriendliness, however, but a preference for fewer social contacts and less tendency to actively seek new relationships. Some of the people on the right side, when you have company socials, they'll keep trying to drag these people out of the back corner in the far end of the hall to mingle. And they don't want to mingle. They don't. Leave them alone. They'll enjoy it by watching other people enjoy it. On the right side, again, the people-oriented, driven to interact with others, prefers not to work alone for extended periods of time. And then on the bottom, tends to have a wide circle of contacts and acquaintances. Now look at that. Look at that. Tends to have a wide circle of contacts and acquaintances. You know, a question you should ask a team leader candidate or a buyer agent candidate, you know what you should ask them? Well, tell me about yourself personally. Like you and your wife like to have parties? How big would you say your Met database is? Do you belong to any clubs? Now, those are questions that would show you the level. Remember what we talked about? They could score high on this and yet not perform like that. So that would validate that behavior, that what it says they are is actually proven out by what they do. Remember, people are defined by what they do, not what the profile says. People are defined by what they do. When we have high match profiles and the bottom performance, their profile doesn't matter. What they do is what matters. Okay. So look at the next one, responsiveness. How a person reacts and responds. On the 0, 1, 2, 3, calm, steady, calm, and patient, works at a slower, composed pace to accommodate their reaction time. They tend to be quiet before they make an answer. Tends to internalize their feelings. They'll give you yes and no answers and not much meat. These are the people, when you're interviewing them, you have to be prepared to practice mirroring and matching. So when you ask somebody a question, so tell me about a time when you were poorly trained on the job. And then they sit there and go, they are processing. If you give the, let me ask it another way. Would you shut up? Would you shut up? One of the most common problems in the CV process with people, they're often doing the hiring, their personality profile type, often because they're a leader, is to let's go. And you got to realize there are people that are not like that at all. And if you really want to connect with them, you have to mirror their speed and their tempo and let them process and just wait for them to answer. And then they'll finally give you a detailed answer. And then you need to peel down. I have watched a lot of this being done. I've done a lot of this myself. And think about it this way. Here's you, you're going to make the hire, and here's the person being hired. If I just watched you, it should look like this. And guess what I often see? And that's wrong. So responsiveness, again, when you look at this on the right side, fast-paced, excitable, and impatient, prefers an exciting, hectic, fast-paced work environment, likes a lot of things happening at once, expresses themselves outwardly rather than holding in their feelings when responding to external events. That's often a really good agent, a good buyer agent, typically, maybe a lead buyer agent. And then we've got structure. Again, fixed on the low end here, greater tolerance for ambiguity, more concerned with outcomes rather than following rules. On the far side, likes order and certainty, follows the rules and established procedures, uncomfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity. They got a balance to the penny. Accurate and thorough MCAs, OPs, some OPs are like that. On the low side, these people are independent from rules, while on the high side, they depend on them. And we are a company of models, which means in every organization, we need people who are focused on following the model. And I don't say that lightly. There's a clear reality that every business, if you think about it, every business needs all four of these operating within it. It needs people that pay attention to structure. It needs people that are impatient, that want to move and that want to get things done. It needs people that are people oriented, and it needs people that are assertive. And it depends on the role. So when you look at building a team, an organization, you'll end up with somebody who's doing the D role, someone who's doing the I role, someone who's doing the S role, and someone who's doing the C role, because the organization needs all of that. But no one person can ever provide all of that, ever. because they're simply driven by one or two more than the other two. And this is the challenge of a busy single agent. And I think it was Susan that was talking about this issue, but that's your challenge, is that you have to do everything in the organization, and yet everything that needs to be done takes traits that you're simply not good at. And it's very challenging in that world. And now we have the modifier traits, adaptability, the desire to accommodate others. And again, this is in relationship to another primary or to a primary trait. The low end, independent minded, less concerned about the impact of their behavior on others, does not readily take others' thoughts and feelings into account when making a decision. They'll often just dig their heels in and not care. And on the other side, accommodating, very concerned about other people's feelings, diplomatic and tactful, wants to be on positive terms with most people. Over time, if there's anything that I've had to deal with about my internal wiring, is this issue about being more accommodating. I needed to be more accommodating than I am. I'm very independent minded. And yet I realize if I'm going to get along with people around me, I've got to tend to be more accommodating. Yeah, whatever. And then intensity, the degree of reaction, a biggie here. Again, on the low end, cool, reacts less strongly when frustrated, seeks a more reasoned or logical approach. And then hot, when frustrated, individuals higher in emotional intensity tend to respond with a high level of emotional vigor. That's a fancy way of saying pop off at the mouth. Whether or not this is displayed outwardly depends on a person's level of responsiveness. So again, intensity, high end, responsiveness, high end. You got yourself somebody who has no filter and they just pop right off at somebody. You see it in young kids, you see it. And then as they grow up, they learn to kind of get control over that because it can get them in trouble easily. And then we have optimism, the degree of positive thinking. Lower end, skeptical, always actively looks for potential problems and worries about what could go wrong. Don't consider that pessimistic. It's not necessarily pessimistic. It's skeptical. It's being cautious. Every organization normally needs somebody who's often thinking, what are we missing here? What are we missing? What should we be thinking about? Our organizations, when COVID hit, our organizations luckily had people in each one of them who said, we got to change to what we're doing right now. People who immediately realized we needed masks, we needed certain rules, only so many people could be in the office at a time. And without those people, we literally could have injured people's health. Without people who were skeptical that we can't keep doing things the way we were. This isn't going to work. Optimistic feels cheerful and upbeat most of the time and may ignore negative information. People that always see things with rose-colored glasses are wonderful people, but sometimes you need to be looking straight at something without any kind of filter. You need to see it for what it is and deal with that reality. And people that have a high level of accountability, that's what they're really good at, is they're neither skeptical or optimistic. They are looking at things without filters and they deal with it. They just deal with it. It is what it is. They're not pessimistic. They're not optimistic. They're realistic. And that is hugely important. The thinking traits are these. And I mentioned this earlier: logical problem solving, rapid fire problem solving, spatial visualization, and vocabulary. Now, thinking traits for certain roles, thinking traits are more important than any of the primary traits or even the modifier traits. So you'll see an example of this later, but there are traits that make someone a high match for a role. And I already mentioned that some roles, it's very tight. It's very tight. There are two traits that are high matches for team leaders. For OPs, what I am, there is no high match trait because successful OPs, top quartile OPs, have all kinds of backgrounds and makeups in terms of their personality profile, and they're succeeding really well. I know a lot of OPs, I know a lot of team leaders. Most of the top team leaders are very similar. A lot of the top OPs that I know are all different people. So let's look at the thinking traits. Logical problem solving, the preference to think through large, complicated problems in a linear, step-by-step way. On the bottom end, not preferred. Now this is not, they don't prefer to work like that. So they prefer on the low end, a more rapid fire approach rather than a linear step-by-step way. They'll use tried and tested approaches when applicable. What that literally means is experience gives you a repeatable behavior. So if I have a problem and I just kind of throw something at it and it works, and then the next time that problem happens, I throw the same thing at it and it works, I'm no longer thinking about what to do with this problem. I'm just doing what I learned works, and I repeat that over and over. They're not thinking about it, they're just doing it. On the preferred side, uses a methodical, process-oriented approach to solving problems. Strategic thinkers able to organize their ideas and easily communicate solutions to others. This is something all newbies, people that are new to real estate, they have to shift into a logical, methodical, process-oriented approach to solving problems. This is what Ignite is about. This is what Bold is about. It is about having a process that you follow it. Think about Bold. You show up and the whole day is mapped out. And if you simply follow it, you get result. And it's that simple. And the truth is, most people will actually get better results if they work in a structured work environment. Structured work environment. One reason that a lot of teams are as successful as they are is that the Rainmaker's vision is to create a structured work environment where everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do and everybody shows up and contributes. They're all in every day for a set amount of time, and that creates the result. And it is about a process-oriented approach. The Red Book is all about that. It doesn't mean that the people in the organization have to be that way, but some of them do in order to achieve high success. And then rapid fire problem solving. The preference to deal quickly with many problems, one after the other. May prefer a more logical approach on the low end, will apply models and systems, and on the high end, tends to, quote, just know the answers, but not necessarily how to explain them to others. Good with quick, seat-of-the-pants problem-solving situations. We got to be careful here where, again, it says preferred or not preferred. People who follow the model are more likely to be successful than those who waste time putting out fires because it gives them a rush. In other words, people who tend to just know and just make quick seat-of-the-pants decisions often will stray off model. Even if it's effective, a short-term solution is not guaranteeing long-term success with whatever you're dealing with. It is a simple truth that you need to be somewhat addicted to following models if you want long-term success. So a real good example of that is somebody calls off a yard sign and a typical agent jumps up and says, yeah, I'll be glad to run right over and show it to you. It actually might be better to get into the habit of having a short form, and anybody who calls off a sign, you ask them some questions like, are you working with another agent? Because if they are, they should ask that agent to show them the property. Could you ask them, how long have you been looking? Yep, that would help qualify them about how much they've seen in the market. Could you ask them, have they been to the bank? There's some questions that you could ask if you followed a logical approach that would save you time long-term, right? You might get out there and show the house and find out they're working with a realtor and they haven't been to the bank, and because that realtor's not doing their job and you just wasted your time. 3, spatial visualization. A natural ability to hold, manipulate, and think about 3 dimensions in one's mind. Now, all of you who've taken the KPA, and particularly those of you who took it recently, when you had a job fit report that you were doing, in other words, you're getting a KPA on your role, you know, single agent, rainmaker, whatever, team leader, OP, whatever. If you were getting that done, you realize that when you hit, if nobody told you about it, when you hit the sections that are timed, it feels like an intelligence test. It feels like a test, and it's not an intelligence test. The KPA is not an intelligence test, and it is not a test. It's an assessment. But this is what was going on then. These are what were being measured when it felt like it's a test. You can see under the special visualization, you can easily picture three-dimensional object space in their minds. They try out spatial solutions without having to go through the intense labor of actually constructing something. And then on the bottom, enjoys working with things and likes the product of their labor to be something they could touch. On the low end, rather than picturing three dimensions in their mind, they will utilize more labor-intensive strategies when working on spatial problems. That's a very fancy way of saying this. Get a flip chart or get a piece of paper and sketch out the problem. And those of you who've been with the company any length of time, you know how much Gary actually loves to do that. He loves to do charts and graphs. We have in Quantum Leap, we have some incredible graphs, just one-page graphs that chart out really big, complicated ideas. And that often helps people understand the concepts that get discussed much easier than someone just talking about it. And when you put the both together, where someone has a graphical depiction of a problem or a reality, and then there's a discussion about it, people tend to absorb it more deeply and more clearly. I love to map things out. I much prefer to sit down and write it out. Agents that start talking to me about their business, I often interrupt and say, tell me about your org chart. Let's write out your org chart. First of all, how many admin do you have? How many agents do you have? And it's astounding to me how many people have low clarity on this issue. Low clarity. They literally don't know how many people are in the sales side and how many are on the admin side. And that is a sign that they're not going to be as productive as they could be or as profitable as they could be, because they don't have that clarity about how they're solving the sales business problem with the people that they've got. There's no good or bad to any of this stuff. I hope you understand that. This is just a reality. On the following page, the last one, vocabulary. Vocabulary, a measure of the number and precision of concepts a person uses in understanding and learning from experience. Now, just take that in. It literally is saying to you that someone who grew up in the Midwest, small town, went to a small Midwestern university and got a job and a career in a small Midwestern town. That person, compared to someone who was a military brat and lived in 10 different cities around the world by the time they were 18 and had gone to all these different schools, had different languages, that person can relate to more people with more varied backgrounds and use words with a larger variety of people than the person who had the Midwest experience. This has nothing to do with intelligence at all. It's purely about life experience. This trait is one of those high valued traits for a team leader. And if you think about a team leader's job, they literally will have a phone call with somebody who just got their license. They'll have a meeting with somebody who's 65 years old and has a team of 20 people. They will then have a meeting with somebody that English is a second language, yada, yada, yada. You get this. They're going from different. And if they didn't have a high facility for talking to people in a variety of different ways, tones, speech, using body language or not using body language, all of that ability to just pick up on people, their clues, and then relate to them in the way they need to be related to, they wouldn't succeed at a high level. And almost all team leaders, again, in the top quartile, have high vocabulary rating. Is quick to pick up and understand new ideas and concepts and able to quickly leverage them in dealing with new experiences. They can talk and connect with somebody sitting in front of them in 15 or 20 minutes. And it's a new experience for both of them if they've just met, and they will make a masterful reality out of that meeting. So the whole point of all of these is that when you got a candidate for a job, you know what the tasks are, you know what you believe their core responsibilities are going to be. Then you look at the assessment and you figure out on each one of their traits where they are, how does that match the task that I'm going to ask them to do. So if I was hiring an agent, one of the main things is they're going to need to talk to people. So I'm going to look at their assessment and see, do they have high vocabulary or not? Because if they do, then they're going to realize we get leads all the time. And some of them are from a young couple getting a new home. Some of them are people that English is a second language. Some of them are people from different religions, races, nationalities, etc. And if they don't have high vocabulary, they're not going to connect and communicate easily. So it's all about thinking about the job and looking at the traits. There's no number here. There's no score here. You will get a score of, are they a high match, a match, or not so good a match against the job profile. But it's more about you thinking about the traits and thinking about the job and thinking about how well do they fit. You need to make up your own mind about it. Every one of these that you do, you'll get this cheat sheet. The cheat sheet is facing it, the trait definitions behavior. So on page 53, if you look at it, boom, there it is, the trait definitions. It shows you assertiveness, sociability, responsiveness, and structure. You should draw a line right in between that because those are the primary traits. And I would just write it right on the side, primary traits. And then below that are the modifier traits, adaptability, intensity, and optimism. And then on the back, it's already identified the thinking traits, logical problem solving, rapid fire problem solving, spatial visualization, and vocabulary. So on the personal report, at the back end of it, there's the cheat sheet. So you don't need to have your manual right at your side at all times. And on the job fit report, at the back of it, same thing. You got the cheat sheet. And this would have all the traits because this is a job fit. And remember, the thinking traits only show up on a job fit report. There is no thinking traits attached to the personal report. It's just the primary and the modifier traits. This will all make more sense later, but that's what it is. So assessing and verifying personality, there's two uses of the KPA, and one is for recruiting. And another way to think about that is building a bench. You can use it to literally create a relationship, and the relationship is created through value. If I said to you, if I didn't know you, and I said, you know what, I've enjoyed meeting you here at the Chamber of Commerce meeting. It's been really amazing. You've done quite a bit with yourself. I'm wondering, has anyone ever offered you a personality assessment? Has anyone done that? Because I'd love to offer you something called the KPA, and I'd love for you to take it. It's an assessment that'll only take you 10 or 15 minutes. And after you've taken it, we'll meet for a half hour to an hour, and I'll review what the assessment says, and you'll tell me if it's accurate or not. But if you end up telling me it's accurate, what's going to happen along that discussion for you to say it's accurate is you will realize the things that you are really talented in and the things you should focus on more. And you'll also learn the things that are more of a challenge for you, and maybe you need to get leverage. And we can talk more about that if this happens, but you should get leverage in your life around those things, and you could be more productive and have less stress. Would that be a benefit to you? And that's how you start a relationship over value, by using the personal report with the KPA. And realize the personal report doesn't say anything to anybody about what they're suited to do. This is really important. Remember, not everybody is a high match for the job they're in that they're succeeding with. And if you gave somebody a Rainmaker assessment, a job fit report, and it ended up saying they're not a good fit, and you're trying to pull them into the company, and now you're going to sit down with them and they're going to review a report that says they're not suited to be a Rainmaker, they're going to think the assessment is stupid and the company is off its rocker, and you've just ruined an opportunity. But if you just do the job, I mean, the personal report, it's not going to say anything about that. It's just going to say, this is who you are. And if they say, well, yeah, that's, I'd say out of a score of 0 to 100, I'd give it a 95. It's pretty darn accurate. Well, now you know what their strengths and weaknesses are, and you could probably surmise that because they're high pay, people oriented, they're not doing really well with the detail work of their business. They probably don't have a budget, or if they do, it's not a good budget. They probably don't follow the budget. They probably don't have detailed systems. You get the point. It creates a relationship on value. Career visioning is about consulting with candidates to find out if your opportunity is the right next logical step for that person. So those are the two main uses. You got a question in the middle of the page. The question here, where is your time better spent when using an assessment? In preparation and analysis, or together with the person, getting to know them? And this is really true with the AVA. We had a lot of people that were hyper focused on understanding every single nuance of using that tool. And it's simply not necessary for you to get the end game done well. You're going to use the tool to ground yourself in the way you're going to discuss the role and opportunity with the person. And then you're also going to use it to start the relationship. But at a high level, it's what they say to you, and it's the way they say it to you, their body language, the way they express things, the communication that they have with you, that ultimately is going to give you more information about a hiring decision than the tool is. So again, your time is better spent talking to them and getting to know them. And what they mean by that is asking important questions and peeling down than it is to be an expert on the KPA tool, period. This is not belittling the value of the KPA tool. On the contrary, it's what starts the relationship and gives you insights on how to communicate and guide them in the discussion. And that has extreme high value. So we asked this question, personality and muscle. This is really important, where it says, use the KPA tool to assess, do they have the muscle? The muscle is the 20%. You're trying to find out, is this person going to be a fit for the job based on the 20%? Nobody ever is perfect on every single task that the job requires them to do. Nobody. But they better be good at the 20%. They better be really good at the 20%. I've hired a lot of people where we get through the whole process. You know, I'm getting ready to make the job offer to them. And I will say this to them. You do understand, I hope, and I want to make it perfectly clear right now, that you have a job task list and you're required to do all those tasks. However, of all those tasks, there are 4 things that if you do those really well, you get to keep the job. There's 8 things that if you do those really well, I mean perfectly, but you don't do the 4 really well, you won't keep the job. I don't care how good you're doing the 8, because these 4 things are your 20%. Are you clear on this? And if you don't do that with people, your 30, 60, 90 is not going to work well. You got 90 days to get them into performance. And that doesn't mean do everything well. It means do the 20 really well. And they need to be clear about that. And you need to be clear about that. So there's no feeling of, gee, I didn't know that that's what you were measuring. Most importantly, you don't want anybody to be, quote, sandbagged. They shouldn't be, but you need to make sure by making a declaration to them that's not vague at all. So the recruiting assessment takes about 10 minutes. That's the personal report. The job fit takes about an hour. It's very important when you ask someone to take a job fit report that you say this to them. I need you to take the assessment where it's quiet, where you will not be interrupted. In other words, a really controlled environment. And if you're willing to, I'd prefer you come to my office and take it in our conference room, because that way we can guarantee you won't be interrupted. But if you're going to do it at home or at your workplace, you need to make sure you do that. I'd also like you to take it in the morning, not at the end of the day when you're tired. So take it in the morning, take it in a quiet, controlled environment, and put at least an hour aside for that situation to be available to you. When you get the assessment back, and it'll be automatic, I mean, you'll get it very quickly, either one, you will need time to study it. So it's not a good idea for you to do it on the spot and then get it back quickly. It may take a little longer than that anyway, but it will be rather quickly. You'll normally get it back same day or early the next day. The goal of the personal report, you see it on the left, is to use that for recruiting, again, building a pipeline, and then the hiring. Now, when you get the consulting guides, and that's what these are, this is what you're going to use when you meet them to go over either one. And it begs a simple question. Can you follow instructions? And I'm not being glib. The way these were written, and we'll look at these and you'll see it, the way these were composed is to give you a step-by-step process to follow exactly as it's mapped out. And it's perfectly okay for you to have it sitting right in front of you when you sit down with somebody and open it up and just turn to the page and read it. Just really go through it. But what you're going to need to understand is in the guides, like this is the very first page of the Job Fit Consulting Guide. It says some information here for you. And then here you start conducting the interview. It says, welcome Madison to the interview and make him comfortable. And here's a script. So here's your start off script. So what you need to do is go through these guides and read them really well multiple times and yellow or highlight yellow the scripts so that when you open it up, you're not looking at all the stuff. You're looking at where do I start? And it would be in yellow. Madison, thank you for coming in today. The reason I wanted to meet with you is to get to know you better and understand some of the things that are important to you. At the end of our discussion, we can both determine if it makes sense to continue our conversation. Now, it's important you hear me. It's absolutely okay and recommended you read the scripts as written, don't improvise, and follow the exact process. If you will commit to that, it will walk you at every turn all the way through the entire process. And that's the way they were designed. So you don't need the manual, you don't need anything but the guide and walk through it.
Jean, let me jump in real quick. This was in the link I sent you guys. And so you saw that what he's talking about is Madison Offenhauser, who is an example. And there's a personal consulting guide and a job fit verification guide in the link that I sent you guys. So that's what he's referring to. And it has everything that he's saying word for word in that. So it's a perfect example if you don't have your own KPA to pull off of.
Absolutely. And thank you for saying that. Yep. If you don't have your own reports and guides, then you would definitely need to use these. But even if you have your own, I'd recommend for doing exercises, you don't use your own personal, use these because it'll keep you from not focusing on yourself. Imagine that. So again, the KPA in recruiting on page 59, it tells you simply the value to you. You understand what drives them, strengthens your ability to communicate with them, tells you how to talk to them, in other words, and it builds the relationship. The value to the recruit is insight into their behavior, their work, and their personal relationships and interactions with others. There is a script on page 59, number 1, on inviting them to take it. I already gave you a script from me, which has been recorded. And then there's an MCA is going to order the assessment for them. And then you will tell them you will meet and go over it. So when you offer that and they say, sure, let's do it, you can go ahead and set the time for you to meet with them in their calendar and your calendar to go over the assessment, because you should get it back in 24 hours or less. Okay. And now we have the personal report itself on page 61. It tells you what's in it. And I'm going to just pull the personal report up here. Again, I have Madison's personal report. And if you look in the book, it shows you this. It says number one, there are 5 sections of the report. Number one is the summary. It's right here. This is the summary. Every personal report will have the traits in the order we went over them. The primary first, the modifier second. So they're absolutely in that order always. The black box is their score. And you see on the bottom, the 0 to 10. And the main thing you should realize is that anything on the left side or the right side is going to be fixed behaviors. Anything in the middle will be flexible. So what do we know about Madison? He's pretty aggressive all the time. He's expressive all the time. He's intense all the time. He's also somewhat aggressive and optimistic. He's very flexible on being task-oriented or people-oriented. That's really important. And then he's also very fixed on being flexible and independent. Now, I already know that about him. It's right there. Boom. I know where he's fixed and I know where he's flexible. Then it has the behavioral strengths right there. And that's the operating style right there. The descriptive review right there. And then the definitions, which is right there. So everything is right there. There's an exercise here for you to go over your own. And I would highly recommend, if you've got yours, you do need to review yours with the material. I'm not telling you not to look at it, but I am saying don't role play or script practice and role play with yours. Do it with the handout. Okay, so boom, want to get to that. So on page 63, the KPA and career visioning. Now here's what it's going to tell you, and this is really important. It's going to tell you whether somebody is a low match, a medium match, or a high match. Nowhere does it say not a match. And the whole point of that is to make you keep remembering there are people that will be fabulous in the role that are not a good match, a low match. And I got to keep my eyes and ears open to make sure I don't miss those opportunities because I saw that they're not a match. And you really do need to understand that. I can't tell you how important it is. I think we have routinely hired people that are matches, if not a high match. But I know for a fact we've had some people that have been spectacular performers that are not a match for the role. So be careful about that. Now, here is the look at the job fit report, which obviously there was more assessed, so there's going to be more detail. And again, we're just looking at what's in the report itself, not the consulting guide. So you'll see on page 65 at the top, number one is the summary, and there's the summary. Now, if you look right at the summary, you notice right at the top, it says job match rating, low, medium, high. And then there's a statement, Madison has an overall high fit with the job of market center team leader. Now, I could argue that for the purposes of moving forward with Madison to consider hiring him, that's told me what I need to know. Now, there's a lot more it's going to tell me, but that's the single biggest thing. Because if that's true, and I look at the traits, I already know where he's got a lot of juice, where I need that juice for a team leader. So if you look at the black squares, they're still here. Only now there's also a gray box, So there's a black square and a gray box. And sometimes the black square is inside the gray box and sometimes it's not. I'm sure you all have already guessed it. The gray box is the range for him being a fit, a match. So you'll notice he can be anywhere in the gray box, but it makes him a high match. So intensity and vocabulary are the two traits, that are most associated with high performing team leaders. And you'll notice he's got his black box in each. And it doesn't matter that he's way down here instead of way up here. That's a match. That's the match. It doesn't matter where in the gray box. It literally doesn't matter, but that's a match. And then you have one trait that is a medium impact trait, and he's a match there. Okay. And then if you look down here to optimism, there's the gray box, there's his black square, he's not a match. And then you look down to adaptability, there's his black square, there's the gray box, he's not a match. And then spatial visualization, the same thing. So there's clearly some traits where he's not a match at all. However, overall, he's a high match. And it's very important to understand that. So that's the way it starts. And then it has the job match rating, number 2, which I've already discussed with you. The target, that's the gray box. I'm on page 65, just going down that list. The job impact, the high, medium, and low impact is on the right side of the graph. And then following that, you have the candidate review, the descriptive review, the job mismatches. When you look at this, again, you dig into the detail to get more information. So the job match report, it starts with the high impact traits, intensity and vocabulary, and then the medium impact traits, and then the low impact traits. And it just discusses them and with its rankings. And you'll notice they're all in order of him scoring. So they're not in order of the primary, modifier, and thinking. They're in order of his scoring, right? And that'll be true of everyone that you get. So there is no commonality with the way this ends up looking. This will look the way the candidate looks, but the personal will always look the same. Okay, and then you have the descriptive review, job considerations, and the trait definitions, the cheat sheet. Very straightforward stuff. And we're going to talk more about all of this with the guides, which is coming up in a minute. So, boom, 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 boom. Ahas, we'll do that later. So move on to value through process. And we're going to come back to this, like I said, just let all that sink in. On page 70 and 71, it's got this parable. A lot of you have heard it, the blind man and the elephant. And it's a simple thing. It just says if 5 blind men went up to an elephant, one got the trunk, one got the ear, one felt the side, one felt the leg, one felt the tail. They'd each describe an elephant differently. But when you put all of their descriptions together, you have a picture of an elephant. So it's simply saying this is what the process is about. We are trying to look at people from many different angles in order to get a clear picture of who they are. And again, this is the most elegant and the most powerful assessment process we've ever had. And that was intentional. And that's why we own it, the process, because Gary wanted to get it as good as possible. And instead of using somebody else's, he had to go and create it. So the 4-step career visioning process is this: screening, interviewing, perspective, and commitment. I actually think it's more than that. I think it's 5. And the first one is the missing one. And the first one is throwing the net. And I know a couple of questions were about that. So the way it works is you have a job opening. You're hiring your first admin as a single agent. You're going to go to KW Connect and download the profile for first admin. And you're going to look at that and it'll have a job task list. And you've got to personalize it. So you'll see some things that, yep, I want this person to do that. Yep, yep, yep. Well, no, don't want them to do that. Take it out. And then you're going to look at it and go, wait a minute, I need somebody who speaks Spanish. So you're going to add that. So whatever it is that you think about your particular position, you got to modify the job the job profile so that it fits. There is a job narrative, which we'll look at later. The job narrative is maybe the most important thing because it's not talking just about the task. It's talking about who the person is. Do they move fast? Do they move slow? Are they someone that people consider an influencer? Yada, yada, yada. So you've got to build that out. Now, once you've got that built out, You throw that out to the world. That's called casting the net. And the most powerful places to throw the net change a little bit over time. It keeps changing. There's a new tool, there's something better. But most of the people that do a lot of hiring, and again, when I train this, I've talked to a lot of people, and I'm always asking, so where do you get your resumes from? Where do you throw the net to? And the most powerful ones are number one for everybody that's got a bigger business is their MET database. So your sphere and your past clients. These are the people that you would send out your job narrative to. And I would recommend you to understand strategically from a marketing point of view, they're going to get an email from you and there'll be a subject line or a tagline, and that should say this: thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's from you. You either sold them a house or you're their friend or family member, and they see thank you, thank you, thank you. They're going to click on it. And it opens up and it says, thank you so much for your support of our business. We are growing. We have an incredible opportunity that requires an incredible person. We've made a description of this person below. Please read through this. And if you think you know this person right away, please don't tell them to call me. Please respond back to me with their name and contact information. And let's get on the phone and you can tell me more about them. And then I'll follow up with them directly and give you the credit for the connection. P.S. This is very important. P.S. This person may not be looking for a job. I still want to know who they are. And this is about you. If you can't hire them now, it is about you building a pipeline of potential talent that one day you might get to work with you. And that's so important. I was on the phone yesterday with somebody who had hired a team leader who's not working out. And when they decided to make the hire, they stopped throwing the net. And it was about a 3-week period before they realized that this is not going to be the right person. And that's 3 weeks of lost collecting resumes. And now they've got to start all over again. And they're simply delayed somewhat by not keeping the net out there. You should keep the net out looking for hires until you're through the 30, 60, 90. In other words, you need to keep pulling resumes for 3 months after you hire them. And if you don't, you'll be stuck. You'll be starting all over again.
Hey, Gene, I have a couple people asking you if you would repeat that SOI script real quick one more time.
The SOI script? I thought it was recorded.
It is recorded. It is recorded, but was it one of those "that's so good, what did I say" kind of things, or is this something that you could just like roll off your tongue one more time?
Well, I can roll it off my tongue one more time. Remember, it's very strategic that you put thank you, thank you, thank you on the subject line. And then when it opens up, it'll say, thank you for your support of our business. We are growing. We're looking for an incredible person for an incredible opportunity. We've read a description of this person below. We created a description of this person below. Please read that. And if you think you know this person, don't tell them to contact me. You contact me, email me, text me, and we'll talk about this person. And then I'll follow up with them and give you credit for the connection. And also understand this. This person may not be looking for a job. I still want to know who they are and connect with them. Thank you so much for your support of our business. That's it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure. So number one is your MET database. Number one, large teams will tell you usually 25 to 50% of who they hire comes from their MET database. And that's really powerful for you to understand. So number two is you're going to go to the internet. And the internet, there are a lot of places you could put it, but where I'm hearing the best results are typically Indeed is seeming to produce the most results. So you get the most resumes from Indeed, but there's a lot of garbage in there. Again, way more applicants than candidates. It doesn't matter. It's like lead generation. How do you get really good leads? You get a lot of leads, and the good ones are in the bad ones, right? So it's the same thing. Indeed, LinkedIn has been growing steadily over years. I'm hearing a lot of people are getting better and better results from LinkedIn. I think one reason for that is Microsoft now owns LinkedIn, and they are steadily putting their expertise and their money into making that tool a better tool. There are many other places. WiseHire is something people go to. I would tell you this little bit of anecdotal evidence. A lot of people who only use WiseHire, it's a syndicator, and it'll syndicate you to Indeed, but it appears that the algorithms Indeed has favor a direct placement. In other words, if you go there through WiseHire, you'll get less response than if you post yourself directly on Indeed. Now, I can't tell you that's a studied fact. I can tell you that's what I believe is true from our use of it, and I've heard that from other people. So that one I would do, and then use WiseHire to syndicate to others. Social media. Social media is another primary source for a lot of large teams. So social media, particularly Facebook, obviously. But again, wherever you have a presence and a network, that's where you want to go. But for almost everybody, that would be Facebook. And that would be placement on your personal or business page, but it could also be simply a paid ad, either one. Within KW has a job board, and realize we're a big company, and there are a lot of people that are mobile and are moving or looking to move, either for a better opportunity or to be in a different part of the country. And you need to get any opportunity you have on that board. Those are some of the biggies. I would really recommend you look at other local opportunities like your Chamber of Commerce, if they have a job board. Universities, if you're willing to hire that, newbie category potential, right? I would definitely post at particularly if you have a university with a business school, I would go to the job placement office and I would get your opportunity posted there at the university. Again, a lot of graduates today are staring at not such a good job market, and you might get some really good talent at the lowest price you're going to get them. And I don't say that just as a joke. We hired my replacement. I was a listing specialist on our team for
Hey, Doug,
7 years.
Warren McNulty. Sorry I missed your call.
Hey, Warren, no problem.
No problem. Okay.
All right, let me see how if I can track him down. Sorry.
Yeah. So we hired a college graduate.
You muted Gene.
Sorry, Gene. I had to mute everybody because I couldn't find him, but I muted you, dear. Sorry about that. But that's the fastest way to get to him in this size group. Almost. Not yet. I really messed you up there. How can I not unmute? Hold on. Why is it not letting you unmute yourself?
There we go.
There we go. Okay, thank you, Gene.
You're welcome. So we hired this person, and she went through a 30, 60, 90 with me, which I'll discuss more tomorrow, but she went through a 30, 60, 90 with me. And in 3 months, she was converting listing appointments at the same level I converted listing appointments. But it's because she was talented, and that means she was smart, she was motivated, and she had integrity. And she did it. So the first step to me is getting all of those resumes that you're going to screen through. So now we're at screen. And screen is going to literally mean reading them and tossing a whole bunch aside. We already went through the numbers, right? You got to toss 70 out of 100. 70, you just toss them. And it could be more than that. It could be 80 or 90. You just toss them. If they're clearly not showing any sign of 20%, you just put them on the side or you throw them in the garbage. By the way, do respond back and say, thank you for submitting. It appears at this time, this opportunity is not a great fit for your talent. Wish you the best. And you don't ever have to talk to them. You just resume or respond back to their submission. I should say this. When you do the post, it should always have a phone number. And when they call that phone number, there should be a recording. There should be a voicemail number. This is not a phone number. You get a Google number or something. This is not a number you're going to ever answer. So it goes to voicemail. And it would be a script like this. Hi, this is Gene Rivers. Thank you for responding to the opportunity. please tell me a little bit about yourself and why you feel you're a great candidate for this job. And then please email your resume to Gene Rivers, GeneRivers at kw.com. That's Gene Rivers at kw.com. Thank you so much, and I'll be back in touch. Now, that is a screening right there. Communication is an important skill set. And now they've got to leave a message. And if that message is rambling and bumbling and not coherent, I'm not interested in them. High communication is very important to me. A lot of what our people do, both agents and staff, is communicate with buyers and sellers all the time. And I need people to have great communication skills. So that's a test. And then number 2 is send the resume. Send the resume. Now, you would think that's pretty simple, but I have people who leave me a message and saying, well, I'm currently unavailable on the internet. I have no internet access. So boom, I'm just done. That person is not problem solving. If you don't have internet service at the moment, how about you go down to Home Depot and email it to me? If you can't figure out how to fix that problem, I don't want to talk to you. I'm done. D-O-N-E. So there is that. And I have people who show up at the office. You know, I'm here to see Mr. Rivers. I want to give him personally my resume, tell him how excited I am about the chance of being in business with the Rivers Group. Well, I know they think they're showing me get up and go, but what they're really showing you from the very beginning, think about that. They're showing you at the very beginning, the minute I think I want to do something my way, I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to do it the way you asked. I'm going to do it the way I want. And they showed you that if you hire me, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to constantly do things my way. And I do not want to hire anybody who does things their way. I do not. They got to earn the right. They got to earn the right first by following my way to earn the right to do some things their way. But right out of the gate, to not do it my way, I'm done. I'm D-O-N-E. So that is a screening tool all by itself. So then the screening is that, and now it's reading the resume, and you're looking for what? The 20%. Be real clear about this. You're looking for signs or evidence that they can do the 20%. I'll give you a simple example. I will not interview someone to be a sales agent on our team who the resume doesn't show any background in sales. If you've never done sales, I am not interested. If you're a 34-year-old person who's been in administration, working in a cubicle on a computer ever since you got out of college 12 years ago, and now you suddenly want to go into sales, I ain't buying it. I ain't buying it. The majority of the people who do that don't succeed. Now, I want you to hear this. Gary Keller says this: I would rather miss a good hire than make a bad hire. And I'm going to reframe that statement into this: I would rather miss a good hire than lose a great hire. And what I'm getting at is if you got 100 or more resumes and you start seeing potential in everybody, because everybody has potential. But when you look at it, you go, oh my God, they won a bunch of awards at their company as an administrator, and everybody says they're a great person, and woo. So if you start spending time seeing potential in people and you're not narrowing it down, guess what? The really good person, when you finally get to them, they're gone because they already got hired because you took too long to get to them. You simply have to spend your time with these criteria where you get that list quickly narrowed down into the people you're going to work on. So, so that's what screening is. Now, once you have those people, now it's down to 30. These are people who show signs of 20%, all of them, all 30. I saw something that said sales. So now I got to figure out, what does that mean that they were in sales? So I'm going to get on the phone where I can't clearly see it and dig into their sales background. If it's clear as a bell, like I've sold homes on a team in Michigan, and my wife has family in Florida, we want to relocate to Florida. I'm going to move that person that's actively a sales agent on a team. I'm going to move them fast through the process because that's a really good candidate for me, right? So I'm going to accelerate that person through the process. I don't need to call them. I'm going to set up a Zoom meeting with them right away, right? So I'm not trying to screen them at that point. I'm trying to get them deeper into the process fast. If I saw somebody that is working for somebody I know, and this has happened several times to me in KW, I'm just going to make a phone call to that person that I know. Hey, are you aware that Bob Johnson on your team is moving to Florida? Oh, yeah. I told him to reach out to you, Gene. He said he's moving to Tallahassee. That's your deal. I told him to reach out to you. Well, just let me ask you very simply. Would you hire him back? Oh, yeah, we're sorry he's gone, but it's a family thing. His wife has family in Florida. They want to move to Florida. He's incredible. Gene, here's the bottom line. If you don't hire this guy, you're an idiot, Gene. Well, you know what? I'm going to move that person really fast through the process. So this is what screening is all about. And then you get to the interviewing, and the interviewing is where the process starts. And you're going to have 4 main interviews, each about an hour long, 4 main interviews. And along the way, and I know they're not all going through the process all at the same time, but you have to keep in mind that you've got to narrow it down to 1 or 2 people. So you have to be exiting people. So that example I just gave, the agent on a team and the Rainmaker, I know them, and they told me if I don't hire him, I'm an idiot. I'm going to fast track him. I've got him as a almost a sure thing. That doesn't mean I'm going to shortcut anything. But everybody now, and just hear this, everybody now, every resume is going to be measured against that resume. So they got to be as good as that or better for me to move them ahead of that guy, right? So I'm going to be moving fastly. I'm going to be eliminating. I'm going to be eliminating people. And then once you've eliminated people and you're down to your 1 or 2, now you're going to do the perspective, meaning you're now going to do references. You're going to get the team meet. You're going to have a defense committee, and we'll talk about all that later. And then the last step is hiring them, and that's commitment. Now that's what the process is. That's it in a nutshell. So that's what we're going to be talking about for the rest of the day as you move to this ladder. And realize, very important, and it's stated in the manual, but I want to emphasize it. You absolutely need to make the process your own. So what I just described, remember I got a resume, and the same day I did a reference check phone call because they're working for someone I know, and I went straight to the reference check. Because if they told me, Gene, this is confidential call, right? Of course it's confidential, Bob. What? I'm so glad he's gone to Florida, but I would tell you, don't hire him, right? Now I'm done with him. I'm done with him at that point. So you make the process your own. Don't feel like you have to get all the way through those interviews before you do reference checking. If somebody looks like a hot tamale, what did we already say about them? If you don't move quick, they'll get hired and you'll lose them.
Yeah.
So when somebody looks like a hot tamale, you're all over them. By the way, I've hired people like that, and I know for a fact they interviewed 2 other teams. So if I didn't even seem interested, didn't even call, he would have taken a job with one of those 2 teams, but I got him because we acted fast. So make the process your own. And right now, the process we're going to have is called chewing your teeth onto food.
I know Gene is hungry. Okay, so we've got questions we can hit when we come back then.
No, we can hit them right now.
Amy was asking, because it threw her off that you said you would only consider candidates that had sales experience. And so what about like she's hired, or somebody said, either her or somebody else, that they've, had successful teachers or whatever that is, right? That have been great agents on their team. So that would have weeded them out. So is that's Gene, like you will not talk to people at all if they have no sales experience?
Well, that's absolutely true, what I said, and that statement is absolutely true. In fact, the 2 professions that have done the best transitioning to real estate are nurses and school teachers. Those 2 have done the best in career transition. So the fact is, if I got one that was a nurse or a teacher, I would keep them in the process.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, a general administrative worker who's got a dozen years or so being an admin person, basically, now wants to transition to sales. Most of those people do not make it.
Right.
They don't make it. It's just like an agent who wants to transition to admin often doesn't make it.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
I just like to join your team as an admin and one day move into sales.
Yeah, that never happens, right? They never say that. Okay, how about this one? Would you consider interviewing candidates after you made that hire and you're going through that 30, 60, 90? Do you still continue interviewing people, or do you shift focus and say, no, this is my person for now, and lean all in? Or do you keep hiring for
No,
that?
we already said this. Until they're through their 30, 60, 90, you should keep the net out. You should keep looking. Now, there's a higher level there, which is about building a bench. So part of this is about your growth plan.
Right.
So I've worked with many agents over the years that are after a big goal. They want to get to net $1 million. And if you've got you and one admin, you got to hire probably 11 more people. And you literally going to be hiring every 90 days. So yeah, you would make that hire, but you'd keep going because you know you're going to hire another one in 90 days or in 6 months from now. You just keep going. It's all about your vision of where you're trying to go. What are you trying to do? And then the hiring path is tied directly to that.
Right. Okay. How about
the main reason more of your agents and more of my agents, Melanie, don't get to net $1 million is because they're not hiring steadily.
That's right.
That's it.
Yep.
It ain't complicated.
Right.
You want to get to net $1 million, you got to hire some people.
That's right.
If you're not currently hiring anybody, don't talk to me about how you want to get to net $1 million. I don't even want to hear about it. You're not even interviewing anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And Anna had a question, and I think you did touch on it earlier, but she said, would you tell an EA candidate that they must do things my way until they earn the right to do it their way during the interview process?
Absolutely. Absolutely. People have to earn the freedom. When you realize you trust their decision making, then they've got the right to make decisions. But until then, they do not customize what in my world is a proven process. And the more you got to realize this, the more they don't follow your model, the odds are the less customer service they're giving. Because the whole point of a model is customer service. The whole point of it. A Wendy's has a system for selling burgers and fries, and they do it so that I can buy a Wendy's here, or I can fly to Austin, Melanie, and buy a Wendy's, and it tastes the exact same way. And I know exactly what options I've got. I know everything is the same thing, and that makes me come back as long as they deliver exactly what I get.
Right.
Right. And that's true in real estate. That's true in oil changes. That's true in everything. And when people aren't following my model, customer service, I believe, will be going down.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think we're good on the chat then. So how long would you like a break for? It's 12:02.
30 minutes.
Okay.
30 minutes. If you can't get fat in 30 minutes of eating, you can't get fat.
Okay, so we'll be back at 12:33.
12:35. How about that? You got
Okay.
32 minutes.
You're
That's
feeling
enough time to
generous.
wipe your lips off with a napkin.
All right, we'll see you back at 12:35, guys.
Okay.